Chapter 5162. Haha, why don't you listen to me? Let's both take a step back. Suddenly, a voice came from the crowd. It attracted everyone's attention. Ling Xiao also looked over curiously. Someone who could say something like that in such a situation was definitely not an ordinary person. As expected, the person standing in the crowd was the outer circle's Lord Huang Hai. Ling Xiao hadn't seen him since the last time they parted. He didn't expect him to appear today. Huang Shui sighed in relief when she saw Huang Hai. "Sir, please speak." Ling Xiao said. Qi Tianmei hurriedly said, "Sir, will do as you say." "All right, since both sides agree, then let's do it this way. First, Ling Xiao will be the Martial City's city guard commander. Second, Martial City's castellan, Qi Tianmei, can't interfere with the city guard commander's affairs. Third, the time limit is 1 month. After 1 month, if Ling Xiao wins against Qi Tianmei, then Ling Xiao will be the Martial City's castellan." Huang Hai explained his solution. Ling Xiao was overjoyed when he heard this. This was very beneficial to him. He was confident that he could defeat Qi Tianmei in 1 month. Moreover, Qi Tianmei couldn't interfere with the city guard commander's affairs, so he wouldn't be restricted too much. This might be a little hard for Qi Tianmei to accept. However, it was better than being removed from the position of castellan and locked up. She thought about it and nodded in agreement. After 1 month, she would definitely make Ling Xiao regret it. Huang Hai's appearance brought the selection to a successful end. There was no need to compete within Team A anymore. Qinqi, Han Yuan, and Yu Fenghua wouldn't compete with Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao was officially appointed as Martial City's city guard commander by Huang Hai. This result caused quite a stir. In a short time, the news spread throughout the outer circle. Some people in the inner and middle circles were also interested in Ling Xiao. Who wouldn't be interested in such an interesting guy? Undercurrents were surging under the calm surface. The Qi family had originally not paid any attention to this bug-like brat. But now, they would no longer underestimate Ling Xiao. Qi Tianmei even closed the door and refused to see any guests. She handed over her work to her capable subordinates. She chose to cultivate in seclusion, although she firmly believed that Ling Xiao would not be her opponent in a month. But this still did not make her feel at ease. There were too many surprises in the commander's selection competition. Therefore, she wanted to become stronger. Since she was already like this, Ling Xiao would definitely not be negligent. Ling Xiao directly handed over the matter of the city defense army to the new deputy commanders, Han Yuan and Qinqi, to handle. Both of them were originally from the city defense army, so they were more familiar with the internal affairs of the city. It was easier for them to solve these problems than for him. "You two can do as you wish. Clear out the trash for me. If anyone doesn't like it, come to me, and I'll settle it." Ling Xiao had almost completely delegated his authority. He knew that he could not stay in this small martial city forever. He had to train Han Yuan and Qinqi to be independent. For the next few days, Ling Xiao cultivated, absorbing the essence and experience of battle. He discovered that after absorbing Qi Heng's Hound God Martial Soul, his Sword God Martial Soul did not level up, but it did become a little stronger. The Sword God Martial Soul formed a Sword God constellation in the Sky Tyrant universe. This constellation was made up of a total of 108 dim stars. Only 1 star lit up for the Hound God Martial Soul. According to Ling Xiao's conjecture, if he wanted the Sword God Martial Soul to reach the intermediate divine rank, he estimated that all 108 stars would have to light up. That was difficult. After all, the Hound God Martial Soul was an intermediate divine rank martial soul. It had only lit up 1 star. If it was a low divine rank martial soul, it probably wouldn't even light up 1 star. But with a goal, a person would have motivation. There were many martial souls in the eternal dominion. He did not have to worry about his Sword God Martial Soul not being able to level up. A few days later, Huang Yu suddenly paid him a visit, saying that she had something important to tell him. Ling Xiao stopped cultivating and received Huang Yu in his governor's residence. "Your Highness, what brings you to my humble abode?" Ling Xiao smiled. Huang Yu said, "How's your cultivation these few days? Have you improved?" "Not much. I'm just drawing on the experience of the selection. I can use it in future battles. In terms of cultivation, I've improved a little during the selection, but I'm still very far away from the 7th level of the divine physique echelon," Ling Xiao said. The selection had raised his cultivation to 30% of the peak 6th level of the divine physique echelon. In the past, he had a feeling that when he reached the next level, it would be very difficult to increase the energy in his cultivation C. So he had to find an opportunity. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to raise his cultivation to the 7th level of the divine physique echelon after a month. That would be troublesome. Don't be too anxious. There's still a long time before the deadline. You have to pay special attention to the Qi family during this period of time. Although Qi Tianmei has gone into seclusion, the Qi family will definitely not let this go. Don't forget, Qi Tianmei is only Qi Heng and Qi Yu's aunt. Their parents are much more powerful than Qi Tianmei. Qi Heng has already been sent back to the Qi family, and Qi Yu has also followed. No one can predict what that woman will say, Huang Yu reminded. I know that. Or rather, I hope that the Qi family will find trouble with me. This will speed up the improvement of my strength. Ling Xiao had always felt that the second half of the 9 Dragons' divine art was in the hands of the Qi family. Oh, right, Your Highness didn't come to me today just to talk about this, right? Ling Xiao asked curiously. Of course not. What I'm going to talk about next is a secret order from Father, Huang Yu suddenly said very seriously. Understood. Ling Xiao stood up and cupped his hands. You know about the land of exile, right? Huang Yu asked. Of course. When Ling Xiao was in Heaven's Wall City, he had fought with the motley crew in the land of exile. Moreover, if the Sky Tyrant Empire wanted to expand their influence, their next stop would be the land of exile. This had always been a problem in his heart. He didn't expect Huang Yu to mention the land of exile at this time. Could this secret order be related to the land of exile? You guessed right. The land of exile is such a big place. Naturally, there would be someone guarding it. The person guarding the land of exile was Father's sworn brother, an expert known as the Sword King. He used the low god position, Sword God Martial Spirit, but cultivated to the top in the Golden Martial Kingdom. Later on, due to some animosity with Father, he volunteered to guard the land of exile. He has many experts under him, and he even has the Sword King army. Father hopes to rope in the Sword King so that he can completely destroy the Qi family. Your task is to investigate the situation and report back when you return. Huang Yu explained. Can I ask what happened between the Golden King and the Sword King? Ling Xiao wasn't curious, but he felt that he had to ask. Otherwise, it would be detrimental to his task. Chapter 5163. What made the Sword King so disheartened that he chose to leave the Golden Domain and head to the land of exile? Ling Xiao asked. For his own safety and for the sake of this mission. He had to know. Father wasn't wrong in this matter, but he was also at fault. It's hard to explain, but since you've asked, I'll tell you. Huang Yu sighed. Back in the day, the Sword King and the Gold King were like brothers. Huang Yu was born of a lowly servant, and everyone looked down on her. Only the Sword King's family treated her well. Huang Yu was grateful to the Sword King, and she didn't want to become his enemy. Therefore, she naturally hoped that Ling Xiao would be able to complete this mission. Some things had to be said. The land of exile is a large desert between the eternal divine domain and the 4 realms. Although there are many oases, the desert is much larger, and it expands every year. Desertification is serious. Many monsters live in the desert, making it a place that cultivators don't want to go. So, To punish those who committed crimes, they were exiled and left to fend for themselves. One of them called himself the Wild Sand King. Not only had he managed to survive, but he'd also managed to gather all the villains who'd tried to rebel against the eternal divine realm. They formed an organization called the Black Sandstorm. Like the Black Sandstorm, it's a powerful organization that's about to engulf the entire eternal divine domain. Huang Yu's words had nothing to do with the Sword King. Ling Xiao didn't interrupt her. He believed that Huang Yu wouldn't say these things for no reason. There had to be a connection between the two. The leader of the Black Sandstorm, the Wild Sand King, had an unfathomable cultivation. The members of the Black Sandstorm were all vicious and evil people. One day, they suddenly rebelled, broke through the defenses of the land of exile, and entered the eternal divine domain. They slaughtered cultivators and plundered their belongings. At the time, my father was ordered to wipe out the Black Sandstorm. The Sword King and the Quan King went with him. The Quan King was the head of the Qi family. They also brought their own experts to fight with them. After a fierce battle, the Black Sandstorm was basically wiped out. Only the Wild Sand King and a few of his trusted aides escaped with serious injuries. At that time, the Sword King's only son, Yi Qiu, had coincidentally met them. I also sent a message to inform my father. Father ordered Yi Qiu to keep a close eye on the enemy, and they immediately set off. However, by the time they arrived, the Wild Sand King was already nowhere to be seen. Only Yi Qiu and the others were lying on the ground, their bodies already poisoned. Yi Qiu's strength was relatively strong, and he was an outstanding genius at that time. He was even more outstanding than my older sister Huang Shui. That was why he was lucky enough to survive. After treatment, he survived, but unfortunately he was affected by the strong poison and could not use his divine essence and soul force. Golden King can't be blamed for this, right? Ling Xiao frowned. The Sword King didn't blame the Golden King. He just couldn't get over it. Perhaps in his opinion, Golden King's order at that time should have been to keep Yi Qiu away from the Wild Sand King. With Yi Qiu's strength, it was simply impossible for him to be the Wild Sand King's match. In fact, if it wasn't Yi Qiu, but Imperial Father's son, Imperial Father would indeed let them escape. This became the Sword King's sore point, and also became a barrier between the two. In addition, someone tried to sow discord, so although the Sword King did not blame the Golden King, he asked to guard the land of exile. From then on, he no longer asked about the Golden Martial Kingdom's matters and completely stayed out of it. Huang Yu sighed. Was it the Qi family who tried to sow discord? Ling Xiao asked. Although everyone knew there was no evidence, so the Sword King did not mention it. Moreover, Imperial Father did not suspect the Qi family at that time and trusted King Quan very much. It was only later that he found out that he was tricked by King Quan, causing him to lose an arm for no reason. Huang Yu smiled bitterly. All these years, the Qi family has been trying to rope in the Sword King, but unfortunately the results were minimal. However, I heard that Qi Heng has a younger brother who also joined the army in the land of exile. This person is called Qi Fei, and his talent far surpasses Qi Heng's. He is more than 10 years younger than Qi Heng, but his cultivation is stronger than Qi Heng's. He has already reached the early stage of the divine physique 9th stage. Moreover, Qi Fei is an expert in the art of war. He has made many contributions in the land of exile and is now a deputy general. The Sword King seems to think highly of him and even sees him as his future son-in-law. He wants to marry his only daughter, Yi Hua, to Qi Fei. If this matter really succeeds, then the Qi family can definitely start a rebellion. Your Highness, you should know that I don't care about the Qi family or the imperial family ruling the Golden Martial Kingdom. If there are no other benefits to this mission, I won't be interested in it. Ling Xiao suddenly said. In the end, this was the imperial family's matter. He could choose not to contribute. However, he did not want to do that. He could contribute, but only if there were benefits. I knew you wouldn't do this for free. Let me tell you something else. And I believe you won't reject it. Huang Yu smiled and said, We've received accurate news that after a storm in the land of exile, an undiscovered ancient ruin has appeared. Oh, I am indeed interested in this. Ling Xiao suddenly became excited. After coming to the eternal divine realm, he had discovered 3 ruins and benefited greatly from them. This time he would not miss out on it. Is there something in the ruins? Hee, I knew you would be interested. The Sword King had already sent people to investigate the ruins. At the entrance of the ruins, there was a heavenly treasure that would make people yearn for it in the future. One of them is called the Flower of Principles. It's of little use to those from the eternal divine realm, but it's of great use to cultivators from the 4 realms and 9 worlds, where laws abound. Huang Yu smiled. What is it? Ling Xiao asked. The Flower of Principles can help the cultivators of those places adapt to the environment of the eternal divine realm. They will not suffer from sudden changes in the laws. Whether it is the physical body or divine energy, they will reach the same level as the cultivators of the eternal divine realm. Huang Yu said, A divine item. If I had known about this earlier, we wouldn't have had to suffer so much. Ling Xiao had to get his hands on this item. Although he did not need it, the cultivators of the Sky Tyrant Empire still wanted to come. In a situation where the laws were not completely equal, the Flower of Principles was extremely important and urgent. In addition to the Flower of Principles, there is also the Fruit of Gods. Huang Yu said, The Fruit of Gods is even more terrifying. It can transform a cultivator's ordinary martial soul into a god martial soul. It can make a god martial soul ascend to godhood. Surely the Sword King has already obtained such a good item. Ling Xiao asked. No. Huang Yu shook his head. The Wild Sand King, who has disappeared for a long time, has reappeared. The black sandstorm has risen from the ashes. They are confronting the Sword King outside the ruins. No one wants the other to get the treasures. Besides, the treasures are guarded by powerful demonic beasts. It is not easy to get them. Huang Yu replied. Chapter 5164. Who else knows about this news? Ling Xiao asked. King of Swords, my father, and King Quan. Huang Yu said, King Quan, I'm afraid the Qi family is up to no good this time. Ling Xiao frowned. Since he had become enemies with the Qi family, he must not let the Qi family get their hands on this thing. There were not many people who knew about this relic. King Quan and King of Gold probably had no time to seize this treasure, but they would definitely send their capable subordinates. King Quan gave this task to Qi Fei. My royal father sent my elder sister there. On the surface, Qi Fei is not as strong as my sister, but no one knows what King Quan is thinking. I shouldn't have told you this, but I still did. You can give up on the god's fruit, but the flower of law should be very useful to you, right? Huang Yu said with a smile. Thank you, Your Highness. Ling Xiao was really grateful to Huang Yu. If not for Huang Yu, even if he knew the news later, it would have been too late. You don't have to thank me. After all, you saved my life, and to be honest, I think highly of you. Recently, the Golden Martial Kingdom has been in trouble. My father is in a terrible fix. If you can stand out, you may be able to change some things. Huang Yu sighed. Who dares to make a move on the Golden Martial Kingdom? Ling Xiao was a little curious. Who else can it be? Who is above the Martial Kingdom? Huang Yu said, Sacred City. Ling Xiao was stunned for a moment. It turned out that the royal family was targeted by the 12 sacred cities. To be exact, it's the Sacred City of Nightmare. There was an important person there who gave us a secret order, telling us to target a seed from the 4 regions and 9 worlds. But my father refused, so we were oppressed. The Qi family has been in contact with this big shot recently, so they dared to expose their intentions more and more obviously. Huang Yu frowned. The speaker didn't mean it, but the listener took it seriously. Ling Xiao analyzed an interesting thing from Huang Yu's words. The person who wanted to deal with him should be in the sacred city of Nightmare. However, Golden King actually refused such an unreasonable request. It seemed that he had wronged Golden King before. This man was still a mighty man who couldn't be subdued by force. In that case, he would help this Golden King. The enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? Moreover, if the imperial family was destroyed, it would be much easier for the Qi family to deal with him. He had to let the imperial family and the Qi family fight. Only then would he be able to reap the benefits. All right, that's all. Pack up and get ready to leave. Remember, you have to leave secretly. Otherwise, if you are targeted by the Qi clan, you might be killed before you even reach the land of exile. Huang Yu stood up and said, "Everyone have a safe journey." That night, Ling Xiao handed over the city defense force of Martial City to Han Yuan and Qinchi. Then, he set off with Yufeng Hua and Cold Plum. As for Long Qin, he also asked him to stay. After all, Han Yuan and Qinchi were not very strong. Long Qin stayed behind, just in case. Early the next morning, the news had only just reached the Qi family. Qilin Manor. This was Qi Heng and Qi Yu's home. Qilin was their father. At the same time, he was also the lord of the Golden Domain. He was extremely powerful. "Father, I just received news that Ling Xiao and Yufeng Hua suddenly left Martial City last night and headed in the direction of the land of exile. They should be heading for the ruins." Qi Yu immediately went to find her father after receiving the report. "I'm afraid the Golden King has given Ling Xiao a secret order. This kid is quite smart. After leaving for so long, I'm afraid we won't be able to catch up. Well, since his destination is the land of exile, he must go to Sword King City. Send a message to Qi Fei. I want this Ling Xiao dead." A ferocious look appeared on Qi Lin's face. Until now, his son Qi Heng was still in a coma. Although Qi Heng's talent was not as good as Qi Fei's, he was still very helpful to him. Moreover, that was his own son. How could he not be angry after being harmed like this? What about the ruins? "I'm afraid second brother is too busy." Qi Yu said, "Don't worry, your second brother has someone helping him." Qi Lin sneered. "This time, we're not only going to kill Ling Xiao, but also get the treasures in the ruins. If the Sword King still refuses to surrender, then we'll have to kill him. Then we'll shift the blame to Ling Xiao. When he and Qi Fei get married, the 300,000 Sword King army will belong to our Qi family." "Got it, father." Qi Yu felt a chill in her heart, but at the same time she was very happy. Ever since Ling Xiao appeared in her life, her originally proud life had been completely ruined. The deputy commander was dismissed. Her eldest brother Qi Heng was beaten into a vegetative state. Even her aunt Qi Tianmei's position as the city lord might be taken away. This Ling Xiao was simply the bane of their Qi family. Therefore, he must be killed. After Qi Yu left, Qi Lin looked at Qi Heng lying on the bed with a vicious look in his eyes. "Golden King, since you're heartless, don't blame me for being unjust. So what if you got the position of the city guard commander? This time, I'll make you suffer a double loss." He completely regarded Ling Xiao as Golden King's man. However, he didn't know that Ling Xiao always had his own plans. He didn't belong to any side and would only fight for himself. Ling Xiao and the others had been rushing for the whole night, and Huang Shui had just set off. However, the formation was completely different. Huang Shui had many experts around her. It would be impossible for others to harm her. Ling Xiao's matter made my father very dissatisfied with me. Therefore, this mission must be completed. Huang Shui gritted her teeth. She tried to harm Ling Xiao many times, but she was warned by Golden King. Moreover, he warned her personally. This put her on the spot. This mission was an opportunity given to her by Golden King. If she didn't complete it well, her position in the Golden region would be lower than Huang Yu's. There were many experts around her, But those people were loyal to her father first. They were loyal to her second. She knew very well in her heart that if she offended her father, she would lose everything. The land of exile was relatively close to the Golden Region, but that was only relative to other martial countries. If they traveled by foot, it would probably take a month. Of course, those who went to the land of exile weren't ordinary people. Ling Xiao calculated that with their speed, they would arrive in 3 days at most. Along the way, Ling Xiao let his main body travel while his 3 avatars cultivated in the universe world. They cultivated the 9 dragons' divine art, God-defying art, and heaven-covering palm. It was convenient to have avatars. Not only did they fight, but they also had a great advantage in cultivation. Otherwise, why would that lotus flower be said to be a peerless genius? He actually created a cultivation method like the Lotus Sutra based on an incomplete ancient scroll. The 9 dragons' divine art was currently cultivated to the level of 1 dragon. However, he wasn't proficient enough, so he had to strengthen it. The God-defying art was very important. After cultivating to the cross stance, he still hadn't broken through. Ling Xiao was also very anxious. After all, the God-defying art and the God-defying sword were the perfect combination. As for the heaven-covering palm, as one of Ling Xiao's regular combat methods, it had to be strengthened. Chapter 5165. 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. A city that looked like a steel fortress appeared in front of them. This was the only safe city in the entire land of exile. No one had ever been able to break through it. It was not only because it was sturdy, but also because it was guarded by the Sword King. Do you feel that the laws in the land of exile are very similar to those in the eternal divine dominion? Ling Xiao felt this the moment he stepped into the land of exile. Indeed, this is probably why you opened the road between the empire of tyrants and the eternal divine dominion. Cold Plum nodded. Yu Fenghua frowned. This is not good. The so-called motley crew that could not display their true strength should be able to do so now. Will Heaven's Wall City be all right? We have to believe in Qin Huang's ability. Moreover, the land of exile is not the same as Heaven's Wall City. Heaven's Wall City is still part of the 4 domains and 9 worlds. The laws there will not change so quickly. Ling Xiao smiled. Now, we should be more worried about ourselves. We don't know when Little Gold will come out of seclusion. If he comes out, our chances of winning will be higher. The 3 of them talked and slowed down their pace as they walked towards Sword King City. Although Sword King City was safe, its surroundings were still filled with unsettling factors. There were traces of battle everywhere. They could even see white bones exposed in the desert. This made them realize that this place was not a good place. It was more dangerous and terrifying than the Golden Martial Kingdom. The passers-by on the road were all vigilant and serious. They were filled with murderous intent. It seemed that the land of exile had brought out the darkest side of human nature. It had become a slaughterhouse and a meat grinder. When the 3 of them arrived at the city, they realized that the city gates were tightly shut. The guards on the city gate tower were also very serious. We are envoys from the Golden Martial Kingdom. Please report our arrival. If what Huang Yu said was true, then the Sword King and the Golden Martial Kingdom did not have a death feud. He believed that even if the Sword King was unreasonable, he would not refuse him at the door. He would not attack him. Wait, someone on the tower responded. Ling Xiao waited there. Cold Plum was somewhat dissatisfied. What a big show! We have the Golden King's secret decree, yet they are so negligent. It seems that this Sword King is relying on the fact that he is the sworn brother of the Golden King, relying on the fact that he has become a popular target for both sides. He is somewhat complacent. Forget it. He's an expert, after all. He's bound to have some temper. Ling Xiao said with a smile. After a long time, the city gates opened. About a dozen warriors, riding on desert lion camels, rushed in. They surrounded Ling Xiao, Yu Fenghua, and Cold Plum. Ling Xiao frowned. Even if the other party was a little negligent, he didn't care. There was no need to get angry. But if the other party dared to make a move, then he would be angry. You said that you are the envoy of the Golden Region. Do you have any proof? The leader of the riders was actually a woman. Dressed in silver armor, he looked valiant. Her strength was also unexpectedly very strong. Ling Xiao took out the secret decree. Golden King's secret decree is here. Could it be fake? The woman actually reached out to take the secret decree, but she was stopped by Ling Xiao. Are the people of Sword King City so unruly? This secret decree is for the Sword King. You are not qualified to see it. Ling Xiao said indifferently, Impudent, you actually dare to be disrespectful to Deputy General Yi Hua. How many heads do you have? A rider at the side roared angrily. You are the one who is bold. You actually dare to yell at the envoy of the Golden King. Could it be that your Sword King City is really going to rebel? Ling Xiao's pupils suddenly shrank, and his cold eyes looked at that rider. That person was stunned for a moment. He wanted to say something, but in the end he didn't say anything, because he couldn't bear this responsibility. Although it is for my father, we still have to check if it is real. We can't rashly let a fake envoy into Sword King City. Recently, the Black Sandstorm organization has started to move again. We have to be careful. Yi Hua's eyes were still cold. Perhaps it was because of Qi Fei. Yi Hua didn't have any good impression of the royal family. Ling Xiao was being resented on account of the house and its crow. Good reason, here you go. Ling Xiao threw the secret decree to Yi Hua and stood at the side. Yi Hua carefully opened the secret decree, but he didn't have the intention to check it. Instead, he looked at the content inside. After reading, he suddenly sneered and said, Golden King is really interesting. He did so many things to us in the past. Now he actually wants us to continue working for him. In his dreams. I am just an envoy. If the Sword King agrees, I will go back and report. If not, I can also go back and report. Miss, why are you so harsh on me? Ling Xiao said indifferently. Yi Hua laughed at himself. Thinking about it, he was just an errand boy. Let's go. I will bring you into the city. However, I am afraid that you won't be able to see my father for the time being. My father is receiving some guests. You can stay in the guest house for the time being. The guest house in Sword King City is full of famous people. I hope that you won't offend anyone after staying there. Otherwise, if something happens, you won't be able to bear the consequences. Yi Hua turned the desert lion camel around and headed towards the city. Ling Xiao and the other two followed behind. Not long later, they arrived at the guest house. Although it was an inn, it was an official inn. It was specially used to receive official guests. Stepping into the guest house, Ling Xiao noticed that many eyes were looking at them. However, most of them were on Yufanghua and Cold Plum. Ling Xiao was a little regretful. He should have let Yufanghua and Cold Plum stay in the universe world. Two great beauties with two different styles. They were really too attractive. As a man walking in the middle, he seemed a little redundant. Yi Hua, you are back! Suddenly, a voice rang out, and a person walked out from a private room in the VIP building. Although he was wearing casual clothes, he still had a military aura. He was really a good man. He looked to be in his 20s and was very handsome. He was also very strong. The early stage of the divine physique realm was really not bad at his age. The moment Ling Xiao saw this person, he guessed his identity, because this person actually looked 50% similar to Qi Heng. He must be the Qi Fei that Huang Yu mentioned. Brother Qi Fei, why are you here? Yi Hua blushed when she saw Qi Fei. It was obvious that she had fallen for this handsome and strong boy. Oh, I am here to meet a friend. Who are these people? Qi Fei asked. They are the envoys of the Golden Territory. They are here with the Golden King's secret edict to persuade my father to work for the royal family. Yi Hua's voice wasn't soft when she said that. It was as if she wanted everyone to hear her on purpose. That was a secret edict. She casually revealed the contents of the edict. It was obvious that she was targeting Ling Xiao. Hearing Yi Hua's words, a ruthless look flashed across Qi Fei's eyes. However, it was just a flash and no one saw it. Chapter 5166. Ha ha ha! So you're Ling Xiao, the one who was favored by the two princesses and rose to the top. In just half a month, you went from a normal soldier to the commander of Martial City's City Defense Army. Qi Fei suddenly laughed and walked up to Ling Xiao to greet him. That elder brother of mine is also under your care. Right now, he's still lying unconscious on the bed. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. Most of the people who wanted to kill me are already dead. He should be thankful that I didn't kill him. Ling Xiao was not courteous at all when he spoke. It was a direct confrontation. He knew that since Qi Fei knew what happened in Martial City, someone must have sent him a message from 1,000 miles away. Qi Fei would not let him go. Regardless of his attitude, the result would be the same. There was no need to be so secretive about it. What an arrogant kid. I thought you were pitiful for running errands for Golden King. But now, it's hard for me to pity you. Yi Hua's eyes turned cold. Ling Xiao did not know what Qi Fei had instilled into Yi Hua's head. But this Yi Hua was truly quite sick. Could it be that women in love were all so foolish? Yi Hua, this person defeated Qi Heng and became the commander of the City Defense Army. He also has the favor of the two princesses. It's normal for him to be arrogant. I'm very interested in this brother's strength. Why don't you show us some of your moves? Qi Fei looked at Yi Hua and smiled. Sword King City values martial arts. When we meet for the first time, we'll make friends by exchanging pointers. If you don't show us some face, I'm afraid you won't give the Sword King army any face. Qi Fei was indeed a ruthless person. This one sentence of his had forced Ling Xiao into a dilemma. If he agreed, there would be trouble. If he did not agree, he would be looked down upon by the Sword King army and leave a bad impression. After that, many things would be difficult to do. But was it really a dilemma? Ling Xiao sneered. He only had one choice. Exchanging pointers is not a problem. But will you be the one to fight? Of course not. If I made a move, even if I defeated you, I'm afraid you wouldn't be convinced. How about this? I heard that you defeated my brother. My brother, Qi Heng, is a martial artist at the peak of the 8th level of the Divine Physique Echelon. However, you've just broken through. How about I send a martial artist at the peak of the 8th level Divine Body Realm to battle with you? Qi Fei was really tempted. The reason why he proposed to spar today was just to dampen Ling Xiao's spirit. He didn't want to kill Ling Xiao because he didn't dare to. If he attacked Ling Xiao in broad daylight, the Sword King would definitely stop him. At that time, he would be the one in trouble. But it shouldn't be a problem to teach him a lesson. Actually, he didn't believe that Ling Xiao, who looked like he was only at the peak of the 6th level of the Divine Physique Echelon, could defeat his older brother. He must have used some underhanded means. Therefore, a martial artist at the peak of the 8th level Divine Body Realm would definitely be able to defeat Ling Xiao. And he was the most vicious. The person he sent belonged to the Sword King army, but he had already bribed him. He said that it was a spar, but he secretly wanted this person to kill Ling Xiao when he had the chance. This way, Ling Xiao's death would have nothing to do with him. Moreover, it would affect the relationship between the Golden King and the Sword King. It was killing many birds with one stone. Ling Xiao was about to speak when Qi Fei said, "It's fine if you don't agree. After all, you're the commander of the Golden Region's City Defense Army. The martial artists in the Land of Exile can't be compared to you. It's normal for you to look down on us." Qi Fei wanted to block Ling Xiao's path of rejection. Actually, he didn't have to do that because Ling Xiao didn't intend to reject. Yi Hua obviously guessed Qi Fei's thoughts, so he added, "That's true. He has the two princesses behind him. If he was really injured in the Sword King City, we won't be able to bear the consequences if the princesses blame us. So forget it. Commander Ling Xiao, I'll pass the secret edict to my father. You had better go back, lest this filthy air stain your noble breath. Yi Hua's words could be said to be extremely sarcastic. Ling Xiao laughed when he heard this. You guys just want to force me to make a move. There's no need to go through so much trouble. I'll just agree. Yi Hua and Qi Fei smiled. They were about to find the peak 8th level divine physique echelon martial artist to fight. However, they were rejected by Ling Xiao. There's no need to go through so much trouble. This suggestion was made by Deputy General Qi Fei. Why don't you let Deputy General Qi Fei spar with me? Ling Xiao said indifferently. You can't be afraid of losing, right? Qi Fei was stunned. Ling Xiao's suggestion ruined his plan. If he made a move, he wouldn't be able to kill Ling Xiao. However, Yi Hua obviously didn't know what Qi Fei was thinking. She was still egging him on. Brother Qi Fei, since he wants to make a fool of himself, let's fulfill his wish. Teach this arrogant fellow a lesson so that he won't dare to come to the Sword King City in the future. Now that things had come to this, Qi Fei couldn't refuse anymore. He forced Ling Xiao to make a move. Ling Xiao agreed. Ling Xiao asked him to make a move. If he rejected, it would mean that he was a coward. Forget it. Qi Fei looked at Ling Xiao and said, A spar is a spar, but fists and legs have no eyes. I hope you can forgive me if I hurt you. You can't hurt me, because I only need one move to defeat you. Ling Xiao said coldly as he pulled out the Void God sword and looked at Qi Fei coldly. In the previous election, he didn't use the Divine Nine Dragon art, nor did he use the Soul Sword art at the start. Otherwise, Qi Hung would have lost in one move. Today was different. He wanted to intimidate these arrogant Sword King army martial artists. He had to defeat Qi Fei cleanly. But whether he should use the Divine Nine Dragon art or the Soul Sword art was a problem. You sure talk big. Aren't you afraid that the wind will cut your tongue? Yi Hua said sarcastically. If Big Brother Qi Fei said that, I can accept it. But you? Qi Fei was also smiling. You really think highly of yourself, don't you? I'm not trash like my brother. You took so long to defeat him. You actually dare to say that you can defeat me in one move? I'd like to see how you lose. There was a stage in the guest pavilion that was used for sparring. Qi Fei jumped up first. He was suppressing a ball of fire in his heart. Ling Xiao, this bastard, dared to look down on him. He was going too far. Come. Qi Fei didn't want to make a fool of himself, so he didn't underestimate his opponent. He released his Divine Dog martial soul at the start and chose to use Divine Dog possession. A long spear appeared in his hand, and he pointed it at Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao jumped onto the stage and looked at Qi Fei indifferently. Then, divine energy gathered in the Void God sword. In the end, he decided to use the Divine Nine Dragon art. The Soul Sword art was too subtle and couldn't intimidate his opponent. But the Divine Nine Dragon art was different. A golden dragon jumped on the Void God sword and was dyed black by the power of the sword. It was an evil black. Kill. Ling Xiao rushed out. He said he would defeat Qi Fei in one move, so he meant it. Therefore, he couldn't give Qi Fei time to prepare. If Qi Fei reacted, this move wouldn't work. The Divine Nine Dragon art was powerful, but Qi Fei definitely had a way to block or dodge it. Only by catching him off guard could he win in one move. Chapter 51-67. Qi Fei did not dare to be careless when he saw Ling Xiao charging at him. However, he was an early-stage 9th-level divine physique echelon expert, after all. It was impossible for him to go all out. Even if he did not want to underestimate his opponent, he would still underestimate his opponent. Moreover, as a powerhouse, why would he defend himself? Since Ling Xiao dared to attack, he naturally had to attack as well. This was the demeanor of a powerhouse. He shook the spear in his hand, and the tip of the spear glowed with fiery red energy. At the same time, the shadow of a fiery red wolf dog shot out from the spear and flew toward Ling Xiao. The wolf dog let out a low growl with an extremely violent aura. Just this casual strike had a might that was much stronger than Qi Heng's strongest attack. However, Ling Xiao did not even bat an eyelid in the face of this powerful attack. He just stabbed out with the Void God sword in his hand. A low dragon roar was heard. A blood-gold divine dragon shot through the air and collided with the wolf dog's shadow. Divine 9 Dragon Formula. Compared to when he first started cultivating the Divine 9 Dragon Formula, this divine dragon's aura was clearly much more powerful. Boom! The divine dragon grew in the wind, and with a roar, it tore the wolf dog's shadow into pieces. Then it pounced on Qi Fei without stopping. The distance between the two of them was only 5 to 6 meters. In such a short distance, Qi Fei would not be able to react at all. This was because the speed of the Divine 9 Dragon Formula was extremely fast. Therefore, there was no way for Qi Fei to escape. The Divine Dragon slammed into Qi Fei and sent him flying. He landed heavily on the arena and spat out a mouthful of blood. Fortunately, Qi Fei had a defensive treasure on him that saved his life at the critical moment. If he did not defend himself, this attack would have killed Qi Fei on the spot. The guest pavilion was dead silent. The disdain in their eyes toward Ling Xiao had turned into shock. Who would have thought that Ling Xiao would really defeat Qi Fei in one move? Although this was mainly due to the element of surprise. A victory was a victory. However, a win was a win. Even if Qi Fei was unconvinced, it was useless. Brother Qi Fei. Yihua only came back to her senses after a long while and hurriedly rushed over. Big brother Qi Fei, are you all right? He won't die yet. Ling Xiao's voice suddenly rang out. As expected of a member of the Qi clan, the defensive magic treasure on his body is not bad. It's a pity that the attack just now should have shattered it, right? As Ling Xiao's voice fell, a cracking sound was heard. A heart protection mirror fell from Qi Fei's body. The protective shield released by the heart protection mirror could instantly protect the vital parts of the body. Unfortunately, the 9 Dragon Formula was too powerful, and even this thing was destroyed. Ling Xiao felt a burst of exhaustion, but he obviously couldn't fall down at this time. Therefore, he forced himself to stand there. Catch him! Yi Hua roared hysterically. Although she roared, the people beside her did not make a move. The Sword King Army doesn't belong to me. Moreover, the Sword King Army had their own pride. This was a fair duel. If Ling Xiao won and went to capture him, it would obviously ruin the reputation of the Sword King Army. Even the martial artist, who was loyal to Qi Fei, didn't make a move. He was a hidden chess piece in the Sword King Army. If he made a move, it would be equivalent to exposing himself. To be honest, he didn't have the confidence to face Ling Xiao. However, they didn't know that the current Ling Xiao was extremely weak and his stamina was almost exhausted. If they really attacked, Ling Xiao definitely wouldn't be able to withstand it. Of course, Cold Plum and Yu Fenghua were beside Ling Xiao, and they naturally wouldn't ignore it. What? Lieutenant Yi Hua, are you going to go back on your words? Are you going to trample on the Sword King Army's face? Ling Xiao looked at Yi Hua and mocked. I don't know what kind of person the Sword King is, but this woman of his is really stupid. I don't care so much. How dare you hurt my big brother Qi Fei? I'll take your life. Yi Hua saw that the others weren't willing to make a move, so she personally made a move. Her cultivation had also reached the early stage of the 9th stage divine physique echelon, but her combat strength was definitely not as good as Qi Fei's. Yu Fenghua and Cold Plum both stood out. They naturally had to stop Yi Hua. However, Qi Fei didn't have any intention of stopping Yi Hua. Whether Yi Hua killed Ling Xiao or Ling Xiao killed Yi Hua, it would be the most beneficial for their Qi family. Sister, stop! Suddenly a weak voice sounded. A white-clothed youth was pushed into the guest house in a wheelchair. Father was worried that you would mess around, so he intentionally ordered me to come and check. Yi Qiu. Ling Xiao looked at the youth. According to Huang Yu's description, this should be Yi Qiu. After the incident 10 years ago, Yi Qiu, who was already 26 years old, became a lot more mature. However, he was almost a cripple. Not only was he unable to use his divine energy, but he also couldn't feel his legs. That wheelchair was obviously made by a famous master. It was powered by spirit stones, and it could move the wheels and even fly. There were also a lot of magic array fluctuations on the wheelchair. It could be seen that it was used to protect Yi Qiu. Furthermore, the woman who was pushing Yi Qiu's wheelchair was also very strong. Brother! Yi Hua seemed to be very afraid of her brother. Even though her brother was already crippled, she still seemed to be very afraid of him. Don't blame me, it's all because of this person. He clearly came to our Sword King city, and yet he still dared to injure people. I am also seeking justice for our Sword King army. Don't try to quibble. Yi Qiu said coldly. All these years, because of me, Father has been especially doting on you. He has really spoiled you. In a fair competition, a loss is a loss. Yet, you actually want to find trouble with others. Do you want our Sword King army's reputation to be tarnished? Go back. Take Qi Fei and quickly treat his injuries. Oh, Yi Hua was helpless. She fiercely glared at Ling Xiao, then ordered people to carry Qi Fei and left. Hua. The instant Yi Hua left, the guest house suddenly rang out with enthusiastic applause. It was for Yi Qiu and Ling Xiao. Yi Qiu's fairness was neither biased nor selfish, and they respected him. Ling Xiao's cultivation was at the peak of the 6th level of the divine physique realm, and he defeated Qi Fei, who was at the early stage of the 9th level of the divine physique realm, in one move. Previously, when they heard Qi Fei's words, they thought that Ling Xiao had used some underhanded means to obtain the position of the city defense army's commander. But now they no longer thought that way. Ling Xiao used his powerful strength to prove himself, and at the same time, changed their impression of him greatly. Perhaps this was something that Qi Fei had never expected. The sparring was originally to embarrass Ling Xiao and even kill Ling Xiao. In the end, not only was he injured, but he also lost all his face. The image that he had always established in the army could be said to have collapsed in an instant. It really felt like he had suffered a double loss. Brother Ling, please forgive my sister for being disrespectful. Father has an important guest to meet today, so he couldn't come out to welcome you. Please don't mind. Although Yi Qiu's voice was weak and his body was weak, this person was indeed much better than his sister. No matter whether it was the way he spoke or the way he acted, he revealed the demeanor that a general should have. It seemed like he was someone who would do great things. It was a pity that his body was crippled and he couldn't use divine origin. Chapter 5168. Of course, what Ling Xiao didn't know was that Yi Qiu had already arrived. If he, Ling Xiao, lost to Qi Fei, Yi Qiu probably wouldn't be so polite to him. All of this was exchanged with his strength. Can I ask, if Qi Fei really wanted to kill me just now, would young master save me? Ling Xiao wasn't a 3-year-old child who was easily won over by others' enthusiasm. He was very clear that he didn't have to thank anyone for all this. What he should be grateful for was his strength. Of course. Yi Qiu said without hesitation. There wasn't a trace of hypocrisy in his eyes. However, Brother Ling, you don't need me to save you, right? The two beside you, any one of them isn't any weaker than Qi Fei, right? You flatter me. Ling Xiao didn't deny it. If they really fought, whether it was Yufeng Hua or Cold Plum, they could take Qi Fei's life. Young master, we should go back. The guest that the prince met today is a powerful alchemist. He was recommended by Deputy General Qi Fei, and the Qi family put in a lot of effort for this matter. Even if young master doesn't believe it, you should try. Perhaps you can really stand up again. The woman pushing the wheelchair suddenly said to Yi Qiu. Who is that alchemist? Yi Qiu asked indifferently. I heard that he's called Hua Tianyi, known as the Miracle Doctor. He's the descendant of Hua Tuo, one of the 12 immortals. The woman said again. It's actually Hua Tianyi. Yi Qiuming revealed an excited expression. This Hua Tianyi was very famous in the Golden Martial Nation. It was said that there was no illness that he couldn't cure. Of course, the rumors might be a little exaggerated, but such a famous person should be capable. All right, let's go back. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly thought of something and turned to Ling Xiao, saying, Brother Ling, rest in the guest house for a while. Father will naturally receive you at a later time. Young Master Yi, please wait. Ling Xiao suddenly thought of a way to rope in the Sword King. He didn't dare to say that his medical skills were unparalleled, but at least his master's medical skills were definitely unmatched in the entire mystic world. If he could cure Yi Qiu, then the Sword King would owe him a big favor. If they could obtain the Sword King's help, it would be much easier for the Sky Tyrant Empire to enter the eternal God domain. Wasn't he recommending Hua Tianyi to rope in the Sword King? The Sword King thought highly of his only son, Yi Qiu. Because of Yi Qiu, he actually fell out with the Golden King. Once Yi Qiu was cured, even if he didn't rely on the Qi family, he would definitely help them. Ling Xiao had no feelings for the royal family, but this Sword King was someone he could use. Is there anything else, Brother Ling? Yi Qiu asked curiously. I also know the art of Qi Huang, and I'm quite proficient in it. Why don't, young master, you let me take a look first? Ling Xiao asked. You. Yi Qiu was stunned for a moment. To be honest, he didn't believe Ling Xiao's words. After all, Ling Xiao was too young. Such a young martial artist was also an alchemist. He could not help but be suspicious. It's just a check. It won't be a problem, right? Ling Xiao smiled. All right then. Yi Qiu ultimately still wanted to befriend Ling Xiao, so he wasn't willing to directly refuse. Moreover, it was just a check, not a treatment. There was no harm. Seeing him agree, Ling Xiao went up to take his pulse and inject divine essence. At the same time, he opened the Tai Chi eye to check. About 5 to 6 minutes later, Ling Xiao put down Yi Qiu's hand and frowned. Your Excellency, if there's nothing else, we can go now, right? The woman pushing Yi Qiu was clearly somewhat impatient, feeling that Ling Xiao was completely wasting time. But Ling Xiao ignored her and looked at Yi Qiu and said, You're afflicted with a curse, right? Hearing this, Yi Qiu's eyes lit up, and he said, That's right. So what if you just know that it's a curse? Ordinary alchemists will know after checking. That woman said again. Then do they know that this curse is refined from gathering the resentment of corpses that are more than 10,000 years old? Ling Xiao countered with a question. What? This time, that woman didn't refute. Instead, she was very surprised. There were very few people who could see this kind of thing. In these years, the Sword King had invited many alchemists to treat him, but there really weren't many who could see this point. At the very least, it meant that Ling Xiao was relatively outstanding among alchemists. This corpse should be the corpse of the Black Death snake from 10,000 years ago. Ling Xiao said again. This time, Yi Qiu and that woman were even more surprised. Yi Qiu even directly asked, Is there a treatment method? Of course there is, but the Qi clan has already sent a famous doctor, Hua Tianyi, for you. It's not good for me to snatch someone else's patient. How about this? If he can't be treated, I'll think of another way. Ling Xiao smiled faintly. The fish had taken the bait. Brother Ling, why don't you come with me to the general's residence? With 2 famous doctors present, I'll be more confident. Yi Qiu hurriedly said. This was exactly what Ling Xiao wanted. He had successfully grasped Yi Qiu's anxious mind. All right, let's go take a look. Ling Xiao nodded. Please. Yi Qiu was even more respectful than before. Previously, he only thought that Ling Xiao was an outstanding genius who was worth befriending. But now he was simply worshipping him. Soon, they arrived at the general's residence. At this moment, the Sword King was talking to Hua Tianyi. Qi Fei and Yi Hua were also there. When he saw Hua Tianyi, Ling Xiao understood that Qi Fei must have been treated by Hua Tianyi and had recovered. This Hua Tianyi really did have some ability. He was not simple. Hua Tianyi's hair and beard were all white, and he looked like an expert. However, his expression was very arrogant. Even in front of the Sword King, he still had the air of an expert. "Qiu, are you back? Who are these people?" The Sword King saw that Yi Qiu had returned and asked with a smile, "Father, that's the guy who injured Qi Fei. What a despicable sneak attack." Yi Hua suddenly shouted, "Shut up!" Before the Sword King could say anything, Yi Qiu shouted sternly, "Yi Hua, that's enough! When did you learn how to lie and frame others? It was a fair duel, but in your eyes it was a sneak attack. I don't want to hear you slander Masterling anymore. Otherwise, don't blame me for being impolite." Hearing this, the Sword King and the others were stunned. Masterling? When did Ling Xiao become a master? "Qiu, your sister is still young. Don't blame her. But you, why did you come with this person?" "I said that I don't want to see people sent by the royal family." The Sword King frowned. "Father, it was me who took the initiative to intercept the Wild Sand King. That's why I ended up like this. It has nothing to do with the Golden King. Moreover, although Masterling was sent by the royal family, you probably don't know that he's actually an extremely powerful pharmacist, right? He could even tell that I was poisoned by a curse, and it was made from the resentment of the Black Death Snake." Yi Qiu said very seriously, "That's nothing. Being able to tell doesn't mean that it can be treated. Does, young master, you mean that you're not willing to accept my treatment?" Hua Tianyi's face was gloomy. He was obviously unhappy. Tyrannical sky, martial spirit, tyrannical sky, martial spirit. Chapter 5169. Senior Hua, you're worrying too much. I've heard of your reputation, so I came here to pay you a visit. Of course, I'll have to rely on you to cure the poison. I can be your assistant. Before Yi Qiu said anything, Ling Xiao said with a smile, he had two purposes for coming here today. First, if Hua Tianyi could cure the poison, he would interfere and prevent him from succeeding. Then, he would treat the poison himself. Second, if Hua Tianyi couldn't cure the poison, he would replace Hua Tianyi. Therefore, it wasn't wise to ruin his relationship with Hua Tianyi too early. After all, the Sword King trusted Hua Tianyi more. Well, not more. He probably trusted Hua Tianyi completely. If he ruined his relationship with Hua Tianyi, he would be the one in an awkward position. Forget it. I don't like to use a stranger. Qi Fei, you can be my assistant. Hua Tianyi glanced at Ling Xiao indifferently. Obviously, he didn't take Ling Xiao seriously anymore. How could a timid kid pose a threat to him? Hua Tianyi also seemed to understand that it wasn't good to target Ling Xiao now. It was better to cure Ling Xiao. At that time, the Sword King would agree to whatever he said. "Please come in, young Master Yi." Hua Tianyi looked at Yi Qiu and made an inviting gesture. "The rest of you can wait outside." "I'm afraid that won't do." The Sword King frowned. "Let me accompany him." He was obviously worried that someone would harm Yi Qiu without him by his side. With Yi Qiu's current weak state, he would be ambushed. He couldn't sit in that wheelchair forever. More importantly, something like this had happened before. It almost led to a big mistake. "Forget it. The Sword King can follow. Qi Fei, you can come too." Hua Tianyi didn't insist and nodded. Then he entered the room with the Sword King. From the beginning, the Sword King didn't even look at Ling Xiao. It was as if he didn't exist at all. Ling Xiao could understand this as well. This was probably also a case of hating the house and its crow. He was really unlucky to be an envoy of the royal family. He might as well come with his own identity. However, since things had already come to this, there was no need to think too much about it. At the very least, Sword King didn't reject him as much as Yi Hua, which was already not bad. After Hua Tianyi and Sword King stepped into the room, Qi Fei suddenly came to Ling Xiao's side and said in a low voice, "Ling Xiao, once Yi Qiu is cured, it will be the time of your death. I believe that no one will care about the death of a city defense commander from the outer circle of the Golden Region." With that, he turned around and entered the room. Looking at Qi Fei's back, Ling Xiao sneered. Did she think that he wouldn't be able to do anything if she didn't let him into the room? Just wait and see. "Masterling, what did Qi Fei say?" Yi Qiu asked curiously. "It's fine. Young master, you should hurry and get treated. If you feel that something is wrong, feel free to shout. If you can't shout it out, I'll be able to sense it with just a thought, and I'll immediately go in to save you." In fact, Ling Xiao felt that Sword King was quite funny. So what if Sword King followed him into the room? Would you be able to tell if a pharmacist wanted to harm someone? Unless the pharmacist was more powerful than the pharmacist, it would be useless even if he opened his eyes wide. He felt that Qi Fei wouldn't be so kind. The Qi family wanted to obtain the Sword King army and let Qi Fei marry Yi Hua. If Yi Qiu recovered, it wouldn't be good for Qi Fei. Let's hope that Qi Fei's worries were groundless. All right, with Ling Xiao's words, Yi Qiu felt more confident. Actually, he was more willing to trust Ling Xiao. This was because Ling Xiao's eyes had a trace of sincerity, which was very difficult to fake. On the other hand, Hua Tianyi was too sophisticated. After the door was closed, Ling Xiao opened his Tai Chi eye. Even though he was standing outside, he could see the situation in the room like the back of his hand. After entering the room, Yi Qiu was helped to the bed. Then, Sword King looked at Hua Tianyi very sincerely. "Immortal Master, I'm counting on you this time. If you can cure Qiu, I'm willing to agree to your request." Hearing this, Qi Fei's face lit up. This so-called request must have something to do with the Qi family. The Qi family really put in a lot of effort. Hua Tianyi nodded and sat on the chair beside the bed. Then he checked Yi Qiu's condition. After a while, he suddenly said, "It's actually cursed poison, and it's refined from the resentment of the 10,000-year-old black death snake. Young master has been poisoned for too long, and the poison has already entered his bone marrow. Even an immortal wouldn't be able to completely expel it. Also, because this poison has been suppressed by Sir Sword King for a long time, once it spreads, it will be like a flood breaking the dam. You won't be able to stop it, and the only result is death." This was basically the trick of all swindlers. First, they said that the other party's condition was very serious, making them feel despair. Then they said that they could cure it, making the other party think that they were the savior. Sure enough, Sword King's face changed greatly, and he actually almost fainted. Even though he was a tough guy, when it concerned his son's life, he couldn't bear it. "Immortal Master, you can definitely help, right?" Sword King suddenly grabbed Hua Tianyi's shoulder and asked excitedly. There was hope in his eyes, like a drowning person hoping to grab a life buoy by the shore. "General, Immortal Master will definitely be fine." Qi Fei comforted from the side. Hua Tianyi saw that it was about time and smiled. "Even so, my ancestor is Hua Tuo, one of the 12 human immortals. You've found the right person. I'm afraid that in this world, other than me, no one else can save him." Sword King was obviously relieved. This usually astute general was now completely confused by the situation. His thoughts were completely controlled by his emotions. "Qi Fei, get the tools," Hua Tianyi said to Qi Fei. "Understood." Qi Fei took out the tools that he had already prepared. There were more than a dozen bottles of strange medicine and more than 30 silver needles. After Hua Tianyi disinfected a pair of silver needles, he gently smeared the medicine on them with cotton wool and pierced them into Yi Qiu's acupuncture points. As the silver needles entered Yi Qiu's body, he groaned but didn't feel any pain. This old man's medical skills are really amazing, especially his acupuncture skills. It's really outstanding. Ling Xiao couldn't help but praise. Master, why are you still in the mood to praise that guy? If Hua Tianyi really cures Yi Qiu, we'll be in trouble. Cold Plum smiled bitterly. It's okay. Ling Xiao smiled and didn't explain anything. He continued to watch. At this moment, Hua Tianyi was performing acupuncture. It could be said that the room was completely silent. The people outside the room didn't dare to make any noise. Ling Xiao saw the sinister traces of the curse on Yi Qiu's body. It was as if a snake was entrenched in Yi Qiu's body. This snake would slowly grow. It was estimated that 10 years ago it was only the size of an earthworm, but now it was more than a meter long, almost occupying Yi Qiu's entire body. He couldn't help but sigh. Yi Qiu was actually able to live until now. It seemed that he had met a benefactor. Sky Tyrant Martial Soul Sky Tyrant Martial Soul. Chapter 50-170. If not for someone suppressing the Black Death Snake curse poison for him back then, Yi Qiu would have died long ago. He wouldn't have lasted until today. Ling Xiao suddenly frowned. This guy's motives are indeed impure. Ling Xiao was an expert, so he could see what Hua Tianyi was doing. The Sword King in the room was a complete layman, so he didn't know what Hua Tianyi was doing. He didn't object to what Hua Tianyi was doing. He just watched quietly, not even daring to breathe loudly. Time passed by minute by minute. Hua Tianyi had already pierced all 30 silver needles into Yi Qiu's body. Upon closer inspection, it actually looked like a cage imprisoning the snake tattoo. Vaguely, there was actually the fluctuation of a formation. This made the Sword King's eyes light up, and he praised in his heart, Immortal Master is indeed capable. You actually know formation techniques in addition to the Qi Huang technique? At this moment, he clearly trusted Hua Tianyi even more. When all the silver needles were used up, Hua Tianyi circulated his divine essence and poured it into the 30 silver needles. Following this action, the silver needles trembled. The snake tattoo on Yi Qiu's body also began to tremble, as if it was struggling and trying to escape. Where are you going? Cold sweat dripped from Hua Tianyi's forehead. Although it looked very difficult, he didn't give up on the treatment. This made the Sword King extremely moved. He was a person who valued friendship. If someone really saved his son, he would be grateful for the rest of his life. As the treatment continued, the snake tattoo actually became fainter and fainter, and finally completely disappeared. At the same time, the 30 silver needles turned black. There was even a fishy smell coming from it. Success! The Sword King looked at Hua Tianyi excitedly and asked. For 10 years, he didn't know how many famous doctors he had invited to treat Yi Qiu, but in the end they all failed. But today he actually succeeded. This made the Sword King feel like he was dreaming, even though he knew that after such a thing happened, he would have to become the Qi family's lackey. But he didn't regret it, as long as his son could recover. So what if he worked for the Qi family? Of course it's a success. The black color on the silver needles is formed by the curse poison. My ancestor has passed down the method of expelling poison with silver needles. Together with the formation, it has endless miraculous uses. Those potions were also secret recipes passed down from generation to generation. There was absolutely no second person in the world who knew how to make them. Originally, I wouldn't easily reveal these things. Because of this, it would take too much energy to treat them, and I would be extremely tired. Today, for the sake of your noble young master, I've risked my life as well. If there had been any mishap, I'm afraid the first one to die would have been me. That poison isn't something to play with. Hua Tianyi's words were nothing more than to tell the Sword King how difficult it was for him to treat him. How great was his contribution. The Sword King supported Hua Tianyi and said, "Thank you for your hard work, Immortal Master. I will definitely reward you well this time." For Hua Tianyi, Although he was invited by the Qi family, he also wanted to gain some benefits. The Sword King's promise made him satisfied. All these years, the Sword King had been guarding the land of exile and had obtained many treasures. Men, capture those envoys from the Golden Domain. The Sword King suddenly gave an order. He had promised Qi Fei that if Yi Qiu was cured, he would immediately capture Ling Xiao. The Sword King didn't care about a mere envoy. It was up to him whether Qi Fei wanted to kill or torture him. Understood. A voice came from outside. Qi Fei revealed a smug smile. Ling Xiao, oh Ling Xiao, you didn't expect this, did you? Although I lost to you last time due to my carelessness, you're still going to die at my hands. However, in the next moment, a scream came from outside. The door was smashed into pieces. Ling Xiao walked in alone from outside. Cold Plum and Yu Fenghua were fighting. If the Sword King captures me now, I guarantee that in 7 days, Yi Qiu will die from the poison. He looked at the Sword King and said bluntly, "You were cheated, yet you still want to count the money. That's exactly what you're talking about. Not only are you conceited, but you're also stupid. Ling Xiao, you've got guts. How dare you make a move in the general's residence? You even cursed young Master Yi Qiu. What are you trying to do?" Qi Fei shouted sternly. "Curse?" Ling Xiao sneered disdainfully and said, "I thought Hua Tianyi was really an expert. I didn't expect that he wasn't saving people, but harming people. It seemed like the curse was removed, but in fact it didn't. Instead, it made the curse even more ferocious. His intentions are terrible." Hearing this, the Sword King was stunned. He didn't dare to be careless when it concerned his son. "Everyone stop." He ordered those who were fighting Yu Fenghua and Cold Plum outside. "Your Excellency, Sword King, I worked hard to treat your son, but now I'm being slandered. Are you going to believe him?" Hua Tianyi's face suddenly darkened. However, there was also a flash of panic in his eyes. "Immortal Master, please don't be angry. It concerns my son's safety. Some things are better explained clearly," the Sword King said lightly, then looked at Ling Xiao and said, "Kid, if you're talking nonsense, blood will be spilled here today. Now tell me what's going on." Ling Xiao also looked at the Sword King and sneered, "Your Excellency, Sword King, I don't like your attitude. If I didn't hit it off with young Master Yi Qiu, I wouldn't have stepped forward. However, we'll settle this score later. Right now, saving people is more important." After saying this, he went straight to Hua Tianyi's toolbox. Because he wanted to verify his judgment, Hua Tianyi and Qi Fei naturally wanted to stop him, but they were stopped by the Sword King. "You too. If you don't do anything wrong, you don't have to be afraid of ghosts knocking on your door. If there's something wrong with the proof, I'll apologize. I'm willing to kneel and apologize, but for now, let's do as he says." The Sword King wasn't completely muddle-headed. Compared to his daughter, Yi Hua was much stronger. While the Sword King was stopping Hua Tianyi and Qi Fei, Ling Xiao checked the medicine bottles and silver needles. As expected, "Hua Tianyi, you're really vicious. As a pharmacist, you actually conspired to harm people. You really don't deserve the title of Immortal Master." Ling Xiao sneered and said, "Sword King, in these medicine bottles, there's no healing medicine at all. They're all highly toxic." The silver needles turned black, not because they were infected by the curse, but because of the changes caused by the highly toxic medicine. "If you don't believe me, you can get someone to test it." "Hua Tianyi, is what he said true?" the Sword King asked sternly. "Sword King, don't listen to that kid's nonsense. Although the medicine is highly toxic, I'm using the method of fighting poison with poison," Hua Tianyi said. "Still want to quibble? Do you really know what a curse is? Although there's a saying of fighting poison with poison in this world, a curse is not in this category. No matter what kind of highly toxic poison enters, it will be eaten by the curse as food. You're not expelling the poison at all, but feeding the Black Death snake the curse. Ling Xiao questioned Hua Tianyi coldly. Chapter 5171. The Black Death Snake Cursed Poison is trapped by the formation. However, as long as it becomes stronger and accumulates enough energy, it will be able to break free from the formation. During this period, there will be a gap of 7 days. Therefore, during this period of time, the cursed poison seems to disappear, but it is actually hiding and accumulating energy. Now, let me ask you, Hua Tianyi, why did you feed the Black Death Snake, cursed poison, so many poisonous things? Ling Xiao's words could be said to hit the nail on the head. Hitting the nail on the head. Brat, you're slandering me. Hua Tianyi was obviously panicking because what Ling Xiao said was true. This made him feel like he had been seen through. Your Excellency, Sword King, I came all the way to Sword King City just to save young Master Yiqiu. I didn't expect you to suspect me because of this brat's nonsense. Hua Tianyi said angrily, if that's the case, if anything happens to anyone in Sword King City, don't come begging me. I'll take my leave. He did not even want the reward and was in a hurry to leave. Stop him. The Sword King said coldly, why are you in such a hurry to leave, Master Celestial? If this brat slandered you, I will definitely apologize to you. The Sword King was really not afraid of offending people. His attitude towards Ling Xiao was very domineering before. Ling Xiao thought that he was influenced by the royal family. Now it seemed that the Sword King was such a person. He only cared about things and not people. The large group of people outside were originally here to capture Ling Xiao, but now they were here to stop Hua Tianyi. Hua Tianyi's face was pale. He knew what he had done. If he was really exposed, he would probably suffer the Sword King's thunderous anger today. However, he had no choice. He was focused on medicine, and his cultivation was not very strong. Ling Xiao, can you prove what you said? The Sword King asked. After all, I can't attack a Master Celestial just because of your speculation. Of course. Ling Xiao nodded straightforwardly and said, without this diamond, I wouldn't have taken on this porcelain job. Although the Black Death Snake, cursed poison, is hidden. However, if there is a more delicious poison to attract it, it will definitely be exposed. It just so happens that I'm also a poison expert. It won't hurt Chiao, right? Sword King frowned and asked, he's already on the verge of death. So what if he's injured? Or do you want to wait 7 days to see the result? Ling Xiao said as he looked at the Sword King. Father, you can't let him cause trouble. Why are you so muddle-headed today? The Qi clan has always treated us well. Hua Tianyi was also the top pharmacist in the Golden Martial Nation. Would you rather believe a layman than them? Right now, Yi Hua was still stubbornly obstinate. Shut up! The Sword King angrily shouted. He looked at Ling Xiao and said, let's start. He was definitely a decisive person. It was not easy for a father to make such a decision. However, the Sword King still clenched his teeth and made his decision. Ling Xiao nodded and released the 9-headed Demon King, Snake Beast Spirit. The most terrifying poison seeped out. Everyone in the room felt a great threat. The Sword King even took out his own weapon, just in case. Don't worry. Compared to you, I admire Yiqiu more. I won't harm him. Poison resistance, Saint Rune. Ling Xiao muttered. Then he used his hand as a brush and engraved a poison resistance, Saint Rune, on Yiqiu's body. It was still a first-grade Saint Rune. This way, Yiqiu would be able to avoid the pain of the poison. It's actually the Saint Rune art. The Sword King was shocked to see this. After the Saint Rune sect was destroyed, those who knew the Saint Rune art were in high demand. Most of them were divided among the major forces. He did not expect Ling Xiao to be able to inscribe a first-grade Saint Rune so easily at such a young age. One had to know that the Saint Rune masters he had seen who could inscribe first-grade Saint Runes were at least in the Divine Soul realm. A moment later, the Black Death Snake, cursed poison that had completely disappeared reappeared. It was clearly much larger than before. It was clear that it had grown after swallowing poison. Seeing this, the Sword King's eyes revealed a terrifying, killing intent. He turned to look at Hua Tianyi and asked, "What else do you have to say?" "Misunderstanding. It must be a misunderstanding. That's right. That Ling Xiao must have used some sorcery. How could the miraculous fairy doctor do such a thing? Yi Hua, this woman is truly hopeless. Even now, she is still speaking up for others. Wake up. He's the one who wants to harm your brother." The Sword King said coldly, "Deputy General Yi Hua, please save me. It must be that brat's doing." Hua Tianyi suddenly approached Yi Hua. Before Yi Hua could react, Hua Tianyi's expression suddenly changed, and a poisonous silver needle appeared in his hand. "Don't come over or I'll kill her. Immortal Master!" Yi Hua was stunned. She had always been protecting Hua Tianyi, but she did not expect that she would become someone's hostage in the end. "Deputy General Yi Hua, I'm sorry. That Ling Xiao is cunning, so you'll have to be my hostage for now. After I've investigated this matter, I'll come and ask for forgiveness." Even now, Hua Tianyi was still trying to trick Yi Hua. The key was that Yi Hua, this stupid woman, actually believed him. She purposely blocked the Sword King's angle of attack so that he could not attack Hua Tianyi. Hua Tianyi slowly retreated. "Brat, one day I'll settle the score with you. We're not done yet. Qi." At this moment, someone that Hua Tianyi was not on guard against launched an attack. It was Qi Fei. Unknowingly, Qi Fei had already walked to Hua Tianyi's side. Hua Tianyi was not on guard against him, and his temple was pierced by Qi Fei's finger. His body went limp. He died on the spot, and he did not even have the chance to say his last words. The Sword King looked at Qi Fei and frowned. Anyone could see that Qi Fei was trying to silence him, but he was already dead and there was no evidence. Qi Fei hurriedly knelt down and said, "General, I didn't see the right person, and I actually let such a bad person harm young Master Yi Qiu. But this guy is obviously the #1 doctor in the Golden Martial Nation. I really don't understand why he would do such a thing. I'm afraid you know very well." Ling Xiao smiled and said, "This move of silencing people is indeed beautifully executed. Your reaction can be said to be fast, but unfortunately, I'm afraid your plan will fail." "What are you talking about? I don't understand at all." Qi Fei laughed dryly. He already hated Ling Xiao to death in his heart. If not for Ling Xiao today, no one present would have been able to see what Hua Tianyi had done. 7 days was enough for him to do a lot of things. The plan would have gone smoothly according to his arrangements. But Ling Xiao's appearance ruined everything. "You don't understand? Forget it." Ling Xiao did not say anything else. Now that there was no evidence, there was no point in saying anything. The Qi clan would completely pour dirty water on Hua Tianyi. "General, I will investigate this matter thoroughly. I will take my leave first." Qi Fei cupped his hands and turned to leave. "Is it really okay to let him leave, just like that?" Ling Xiao looked at the Sword King and said, "You should know that what Hua Tianyi did was arranged by the Qi clan. Words are no proof. So what if I know? He acted too quickly." The Sword King shook his head. He did not want to offend the Qi clan now. Chapter 5172. What if I tell you that I can save Yi Qiu? Ling Xiao smiled. "Are you serious?" Sword King's eyes widened. "Of course, I'm not a liar like Hua Tianyi." Ling Xiao said, "If you can cure Yi Qiu, I'll uproot Qi Fei and the people the Qi family arranged in Sword King City. From then on, I'll swear allegiance to the royal family." Sword King said, "No, no, no." Ling Xiao shook his head and said, "You owe me a favor, not the royal family. I hope you can help me." "Help? No need to go through so much trouble. If you can cure Yi Qiu, My Sword King army will obey you from now on. Sword King said. His words were powerful and resonating. When it came from his mouth, he basically wouldn't lie. Good, straightforward. That's what I want. But let's talk about this later. Curing Yi Qiu is more important. Ling Xiao said. To cure Yi Qiu, I need a few medicinal herbs. Send someone to find them immediately. The sooner the better. I'm 100% sure that I can find them within 7 days. But after 7 days, even an immortal won't be able to save him. While speaking, he wrote down the medicinal herbs he needed. In fact, he didn't need any medicinal herbs. He just wrote down the medicinal herbs he needed to refine other pills. In the future, when warriors from the Sky Tyrant Empire came, they would have to rely on pills to improve their strength. Most of the medicinal herbs he needed were for refining the Law Pill. Although the Law Pill's main ingredient was the flower of law, supplementary medicinal herbs were also indispensable. Ling Xiao didn't have any on him. He could borrow the strength of Sword King City and also test the strength of the Sword King army. At the same time, if it was too easy to expel the poison, it would make people think that he was too relaxed. That wouldn't be good. I'll send someone to collect the medicinal herbs now. Master Ling, you don't need to go to the guest house. Just stay in the general's residence. I'll order someone to clean up the room. Sword King said. I'll listen to the general. Ling Xiao nodded. Staying in the general's residence was to make Sword King feel at ease. In addition, it was definitely safer here. Qi Fei's plan was ruined by him. He wouldn't let him go. He would definitely try to kill him. Who knew if Qi Fei had other helpers here? After Ling Xiao left, Yihua said, Father, do you really think that Ling Xiao will be able to cure Big Brother? Even Hua Tianyi can't do it, but Ling Xiao can? The Sword King sighed. To be honest, he was also forced into a corner. If what Ling Xiao said was true, and Yi Qiu only had 7 days to live, what could he do? Other than believing in Ling Xiao, was there any other way? No. Let's leave it to the heavens. If this brat dares to lie to me, I will definitely kill him. If he really has the ability, I don't mind selling my life to him. The Sword King gritted his teeth. Father, I'm going back. Yihua let out a sigh. Right now, she was very conflicted. On one hand, she was afraid that Ling Xiao would be able to cure Yi Qiu. He also hoped that Ling Xiao could cure Yi Qiu. After a day of torment, everyone was tired. Thus, Ling Xiao, Yufeng Hua, and Cold Plum all sat cross-legged in the room and rested. Martial artists were all like this when they rested. They could still cultivate while resting. Early morning of the second day, the outside suddenly became chaotic. Ling Xiao, Her Highness wants to see you. It was Zhongling's voice. Ling Xiao opened his eyes and frowned. He didn't expect Huang Shui to arrive so quickly. He really didn't want to see this princess. This princess's brain is filled with schemes. Staying with this woman is too tiring. My brain can't even rest for a moment. However, he had his own plans right now. For the time being, he didn't want to fall out with Huang Shui. Thus, after packing up, he left the room. Huang Shui lived in the imperial palace beside the general's residence. This imperial palace was uninhabited all year round. However, there were always people cleaning it. Thus, it was still very clean. No matter if it was the environment or the size, it was much better than the general's residence. Ling Xiao, who gave you the courage to actually accept this kind of job? What if you fail? How are you going to explain this to my royal father? When Huang Shui saw Ling Xiao, she immediately reprimanded him. Your Highness, you do your thing, and I do mine. Let's mind our own business. Why do you need to be so angry? Ling Xiao said as he looked at Huang Shui lazily. This woman could be considered an ally this time. However, she was also a dangerous ally. At the crucial moment, no one knew who this woman would help. You are still as arrogant as before, Huang Shui said coldly. However, you seem to have forgotten that this is not the Golden Domain. That girl, Huang Yu, is not here. If I really kill you, it doesn't seem like a big deal. After all, it is normal for people to die in the land of exile. In that case, why hasn't your highness made a move yet? Ling Xiao yawned and said, I am very tired. If your highness doesn't want to kill me, I will leave. Simply stubborn. Huang Shui gnashed her teeth in hatred. Scram! In that case, your highness, goodbye. Ling Xiao smiled and turned to leave. Huang Shui looked at Ling Xiao's departing figure, feeling extremely displeased. She wanted to kill Ling Xiao too. However, the general's residence had already announced that Ling Xiao was an honored guest of the general's residence. Whoever dared to hurt him would be the enemy of the entire Sword King army. No matter how bold Huang Shui was, she wouldn't dare to do that. The reason she was displeased was that Huang Yu and her father were protecting Ling Xiao in the Golden Domain. In the end, Ling Xiao was instantly protected by the Sword King in the land of exile. How was this brat so capable? Your Highness, there is no need to be anxious. How could that brat save someone that even Hua Tianyi couldn't? He must be looking for an opportunity to escape. At that time, without the general's residence's protection, wouldn't it be easy for us to kill him? Zhong Ling said with a smile. We can only do so. Huang Shui didn't believe that Ling Xiao would be able to cure Yi Qiu. If he was really able to cure Yi Qiu, then wouldn't Ling Xiao be a god? In the following 3 days, Ling Xiao didn't step out of the courtyard at all. He was immersed in cultivating his martial technique. Finally, the god-defying technique showed signs of breaking through. The unification form to the cross form had completely fused together, forming a terrifying sword. The name of the sword was God-Defying Technique. When this sword was used together with the God-Defying Technique, its might actually surpassed the heaven-covering blood palm. It even surpassed the 9 dragons' divine technique, which only had 1 dragon. And this was under the situation where Ling Xiao wasn't completely proficient in the God-Defying Technique yet. However, because of this sword, something happened, and that was the room that the Sword King gave him was destroyed. The Sword King heard about this. Yi Hua was rather displeased. Father, that Ling Xiao doesn't look like he wants to cure Big Brother at all. He only knows how to cultivate his sword technique every day. He actually destroyed the room. Are you sure you want to believe him? At this time, do I still have a choice? Those medicinal herbs that he wants can be gathered by today. In any case, whether it is a mule or a horse, I will just bring it out for a walk. The Sword King was still as resolute as before. That was because he had no other choice. If there was, he wouldn't have placed all of his hopes on Ling Xiao. In the past few years, he had looked for too many famous doctors. And now, even Hua Tianyi couldn't cure Yi Qiu. With his ability, he couldn't find anyone stronger. He could only see if Ling Xiao had the ability or not. Chapter 5173. Qi Fei, hurry up and leave. If that Ling Xiao really manages to cure my brother, your situation will become very dangerous. In a certain mansion in Sword King City, Qi Fei brought some people and stayed there. After Yi Hua found out from her father that all the herbs were gathered, she hurriedly ran here to report. Don't panic. I don't believe that Ling Xiao can cure an injury that even Hua Tianyi can't cure. Qi Fei sneered with a gloomy face. Don't be afraid of what if. Just be afraid of 10,000. Yi Hua also doesn't believe that Ling Xiao can cure Yi Qiu. But in this world, there is always a what if. She doesn't want anything to happen to Qi Fei. Don't worry too much. Help me keep an eye on that Ling Xiao and see what he is up to. If there is any movement, immediately inform me. Qi Fei comforted Yi Hua and said, Also, I naturally hope that Yi Qiu can be cured. However, if that Ling Xiao really swindles you, inform me immediately. I will kill that bastard with my own hands, in order to vent the hatred in my heart. There is no need for you to do anything. If he can't cure my brother, my father will not let him off. Yi Hua said. That's true. All right, you can go back first, in case your father gets angry again. Chi Fei said intimately. Big brother Chi Fei, no matter what happens, I will help you. Before leaving, Yi Hua said to Chi Fei with an expressionless face, and then left. After Yi Hua left, Chi Fei's smiling face became sinister and cold. Stupid woman, if not for using you to deal with Sword King, why would I say those disgusting words? He has already possessed Yi Hua's body, but he has never taken Yi Hua seriously. Because this woman is too stupid, she is not suitable to be his woman. However, her looks are not bad. Playing with her for a while is quite interesting. Isn't young master being too cruel to a woman by doing this? A secret door opened in a room, and a person walked out from it. His entire body was emitting a fiendish aura, incomparably sinister. If Sword King was here, he would definitely recognize this person. He is actually one of Wild Sand King's right-hand men, General Sand Crocodile. The Wild Sand King had two powerful subordinates. General Sand Crocodile was an expert in assassination. Of course, he wasn't here to assassinate Chi Fei. Instead, he had something to discuss. A real man shouldn't be bothered by trifles. Chi Fei said calmly. Yi Qiu, on the other hand, has become a problem. I've seen that Ling Xiao before, and he's definitely not a fool. He keeps saying that he can cure Yi Qiu, although I think it's just nonsense. However, he still had to be on guard. That's why I invited General Sand Crocodile over to discuss this matter. Young master, you're being too cautious. The Black Death Snake, cursed poison, has been in Yi Qiu's body for so many years. Have you ever seen anyone who could break it? Our boss's curse. Other than himself, no one else can break it. So, why didn't you directly ask our boss for help? Why did you look for Hua Tianyi instead? General Sand Crocodile said disdainfully. Sword King and Golden King don't know what happened back then. Once your boss comes forward, won't everything be exposed? Chi Fei shook his head. His father, Qi Lin, once told him a secret. Back then, when the three kings were pursuing the Wild Sand King, the Quan King had secretly met the Wild Sand King. If he hadn't let the seriously injured Wild Sand King go, Yi Qiu wouldn't have been poisoned, and the Wild Sand King wouldn't have risen again. In the past 10 years, the Qi family had spent a lot of resources to cultivate the Black Sandstorm. The Black Sandstorm had also done a lot for them. Outsiders didn't know that they were in a cooperative relationship. So what if we're exposed? The Sword King obviously has no intention of cooperating with the Qi family. It's better to solve it as soon as possible. Let our boss become the ruler of the land of exile. At that time, it'll be easier for your Qi family to do things. General Sand Crocodile said calmly. Since it's already like this, it's useless to talk about it. Now, we have to prepare for the worst. We have to consider the plan under the premise that Ling Xiao can cure Yi Qiu. We can give up the treasure, but the Sword King must die. Chi Fei said coldly. Have you made up your mind? General Sand Crocodile said with a smile. You should have done so long ago. I'll go back and report to our boss now. No need. Tell him to meet me at the guest house. There are some things that must be discussed in detail. Once Ling Xiao cures Yi Qiu, we'll take action immediately. Don't they want the flower of law and God's fruit? Let's wait for them to come. Chi Fei sneered. He could already imagine the Sword King's defeat. A joyful expression appeared on his face. That afternoon, the Sword King sent someone to find Ling Xiao, saying that he had gathered all the herbs. Ling Xiao thought that this speed was not bad. It meant that the Sword King's army was very capable. He was relieved. After all, the Sky Tyrant Empire's first stop in the eternal divine domain was the land of exile. With the Sword King's army guarding it, it should be safer. Bring me there. Ling Xiao got up, washed up, and followed the person who came to find him. Yufeng Hua and Cold Plum followed beside him. They were Ling Xiao's bodyguards. They could not leave as they pleased. When Ling Xiao arrived at the room, the Sword King, Yi Hua, and Yi Qiu's mother were all waiting for him. Master Ling, the herbs are ready. Can we start today? The Sword King was eager to save his son. Give me the herbs, Ling Xiao said indifferently. Give them to Master Ling, the Sword King ordered. The person beside him should be the Sword King's confidant. All the herbs were in his storage ring. Ling Xiao turned around and said with a smile, not bad. They're all top-quality herbs. Seems like the Sword King has put in a lot of effort. Does that mean Qiu can be saved? The Sword King asked anxiously. I've said it before. As long as you gather all the herbs in 7 days, I have 100% chance of saving him. Ling Xiao said indifferently. Actually, even if the Sword King could not gather all the herbs in 7 days, he would still save him. Yi Qiu was a good person. He did not want Yi Qiu to die like this. Then that's great. The Sword King let out a breath of relief. Although I don't mind you guys watching here, remember, during the treatment, you are not allowed to talk. You must not interrupt me. Otherwise, if something happens, you will have to bear the consequences. Ling Xiao took a look at the people in the room. There were 6 or 7 of them. Thus he said coldly, Master Ling, you can rest assured. The Sword King nodded his head. Ling Xiao did not speak anymore. He walked to the front of Yi Qiu and took a look. The black death snake, cursed poison that he fished out was hidden again. However, under his Tai Chi eye, it could not hide at all. Actually, the treatment process was very simple. He only needed 3 things. The first thing was his 9-headed demon king, snake beast soul. This was a beast soul that could absorb all the poisons in the world, including the cursed poison. The second thing was the poison resistance Saint Mark. This was necessary. Otherwise, Yi Qiu's weak body would not be able to withstand the poison's attack. Chapter 5174. The third one was naturally the vitality pill. This was prepared for Yi Qiu's body. Otherwise, after 10 years of not using his spirit essence, once the curse was removed and his spirit essence was released, his weak body would collapse in an instant. Thus, Ling Xiao planned to seal her divine energy with a formation and slowly release it. Then, he would use the vitality pill to repair Yi Qiu's body. In a few days, Yi Qiu would be able to regain her former strength. It sounded complicated, but the process of removing the poison would take less than a minute. That would seem too simple, and he was afraid that others wouldn't believe him. Thus, Ling Xiao began to refine the vitality pill in his room. Of course, the Sword King had sent people to find the ingredients for the vitality pill. He only needed to spend some effort. Ling Xiao, why are you doing this? Yi Hua was surprised to see Ling Xiao refining pills in the air without using a cauldron. However, she was very confused, so she asked, Get out! Ling Xiao shouted, Am I the one saving her? Or are you the one saving her? Did he forget what he had just said? It's fine if you waste these ingredients, but if you delay the treatment of Yi Qiu, I'm afraid you can't bear the responsibility. Actually, Ling Xiao wasn't afraid of being disturbed at all. He was a person who could multitask. However, Yi Hua's attitude towards him wasn't good in the past. She was clearly using her position to avenge a personal grudge. Yi Hua wanted to say something, but the Sword King glared at her. She had no choice but to leave. She waited outside the room. Master Ling, don't blame Yi Hua too much. She's just worried about Qiu. The Sword King hurriedly said, You should shut up too. Otherwise get out too. Ling Xiao's attitude was just as strong. The Sword King's attitude towards him wasn't good in the beginning, so he naturally wanted to get back at him. It was fine to say that he had a childish temper. After all, he was only a teenager in this world. The Sword King laughed bitterly and didn't say anything. He thought to himself, This kid is so vengeful. If I had known, I would have treated him better in the beginning. Actually, The Sword King believed Ling Xiao's words a little more. After all, he had never seen an alchemist who could refine pills in the air in the eternal divine realm. It was said that only the alchemists of the immortal court continent had such abilities. Ling Xiao's ability had clearly surpassed Hua Tianyi's and brought him great hope. After the Sword King shut up, Ling Xiao started to get busy. In Sword King City, two forces had already begun to move. General Sand Crocodile killed the people who were watching Qi Fei and left Sword King City with Qi Fei. He began to plan to kill Sword King. The Sword King was definitely going to fight for the God's fruit and the flower of law, so they had to set up a trap there. At the same time, Huang Shui also left Sword King City. Her mission in the land of exile this time was also to explore the ruins. Although she really wanted to kill Ling Xiao before leaving, she had already delayed long enough. He could only wait until the mission was completed. Of course, the commotion on both sides quickly spread to the general's mansion. However, the Sword King's mind was completely focused on his son at this time. He simply didn't have the energy to care about other things. After spending 10 minutes, Ling Xiao managed to refine 10 vitality pills. This vitality pill's effect was mild. 3 times a day, 1 pill each time. Basically, Yi Qiu's body could recover in 3 days. The 10th pill was used to consolidate. Seeing Ling Xiao finish refining the pills, the Sword King suddenly became nervous because he knew that the most crucial moment had arrived. Little did he know that the next step was the easiest for Ling Xiao. He redrew the poison resistance sacred inscription for Yi Qiu. After that, he released the 9-headed Demon King, Snake Beast Soul. This beast soul had already appeared before, so the Sword King wasn't surprised. He just wanted to know what Ling Xiao was going to do. Ling Xiao pointed his right hand and pressed it on Yi Qiu's body. The 9-headed Demon King, Snake Beast Soul, started to absorb the poison in Yi Qiu's body. This cursed poison already had its own consciousness. Absorbing it wasn't very easy. However, Ling Xiao naturally had his own way. A soul sword shot out from between his brows, accurately killing the cursed poison's consciousness without any mistake. A cursed poison without consciousness was a dead object. It wouldn't resist at all. The entire process was so simple that it didn't require any effort. Was that a secret soul technique just now? Although I couldn't see it, I felt a powerful soul fluctuation. This Ling Xiao is really a mystery. Superb alchemy skills, knows the sacred inscription technique, and now he even exposed a powerful secret soul technique. This person isn't simple. The Sword King originally wanted to rely on Ling Xiao after he cured Yi Qiu, but he was still somewhat unwilling in his heart. After all, everyone wanted to rely on a wise master. In the end, he still wasn't very satisfied with Ling Xiao. He was just a youngster. Wanting him to work for him, he really wasn't convinced. But after these events, he gradually felt that this Ling Xiao really wasn't an ordinary person. Perhaps following this Ling Xiao wasn't a bad choice. In fact, the curse poison was completely absorbed in just a few dozen seconds. However, Ling Xiao was still putting on an act. He had to show that he was working very hard, right? The Sword King could clearly see his son's skin gradually returning to its normal color. He was overjoyed and wanted to jump up and cheer. But thinking of Ling Xiao's words before, he could only shut his mouth and wait. He didn't want the treatment to fail because of him. The other people in the room were also holding back their excitement. After about 10 minutes, Ling Xiao really couldn't keep up the act anymore. Only then did he start to arrange the array. That skillful operation made the Sword King feel a burst of surprise. He even knew how to arrange an array, and he was still so familiar with it. Is he still human? He's simply an omnipotent monster. A moment later, the array was finished. Ling Xiao wiped the sweat off his forehead and sat down, feeling a little exhausted. Yu Fanghua hurriedly went forward to help Ling Xiao wipe his sweat. Sword King, no need to be so tense. If you want to cheer, then cheer. It's already over. Next, I just need to use the pills I just refined to help him recuperate. At most 3 days, he will be able to return to his former glory. Ling Xiao said with a smile, "That's great." The Sword King fiercely clenched his fist and waved it. For 10 years, he had been thinking about this day every day. Sometimes he had even lost all hope. But today, it was Ling Xiao who pulled him out of the abyss of despair. Hearing the cheers in the room, Yi Hua revealed a confused expression. He clenched his teeth and finally chose to run to report to Qi Fei. From today onwards, Yi Mo will follow young master's lead. Sword King Yi Mo. This name resounded throughout the golden martial nation. But now he actually knelt in front of Ling Xiao. Tears flowed down his face as he was overjoyed. Senior is a man of his word. There's no need for such a big ceremony. Get up. Ling Xiao said with a smile. Yi Mo stood up and said, "Young master, if you have any instructions in the future, feel free to say it. As long as I, Yi Mo, can do it, I will do my best. Right now, there's something I need to trouble Senior with." Ling Xiao didn't hold back at all. "Is it about the ruins?" Yi Mo asked. As expected of a smart person, he really understood with just a hint. Chapter 51-75. Masterling, don't worry about the ruins. We've already done a comprehensive investigation. If it wasn't for the Wild Sand King, we might have already obtained the God's Fruit and the Flower of Law. Sword King Yi Mo said, "I'll definitely tell you the truth. I'll listen to Master's arrangements." "Masterling, that sounds awkward. Just call me young master." Ling Xiao smiled bitterly. Yi Qiu should be waking up soon. Accompany him first. We'll talk about the ruins later. Although he wanted to know everything about the ruins as soon as possible, he wasn't an unreasonable person. "Thank you, young master. I just happened to collect some written information. Take a look." Yi Mo ordered his subordinates to bring the information to Ling Xiao's room. Ling Xiao turned and left. At the same time, Qi Fei, who had already left Sword King City, also received the news. Someone directly used a voice transmission talisman to tell him the news. The worst-case scenario has actually happened. This Ling Xiao can't be underestimated. Qi Fei was very shocked. He was worried that Ling Xiao would be in trouble after curing Yi Qiu. Therefore, he left Sword King City in advance. But that was only because he was cautious enough. He didn't expect that Ling Xiao actually did it. This brat is interesting. General Sand Crocodile was also shocked. But since he dared to spoil the Wild Sand King's plan, he won't be far from death. That's right. Qi Fei was also gnashing his teeth. He had worked hard for many years under Sword King Yi Mo. It could be said that he had suffered a lot. It was all for the sake of obtaining Yi Hua and then further controlling the entire Sword King army. But Yi Qiu was cured by Ling Xiao, which completely disrupted his plan. He believed that with Yi Mo's character, he would definitely listen to Ling Xiao from now on. Everything he had painstakingly built was ruined, except for Yi Hua. This stupid woman, maybe he could still make use of her. Young Master Qi, the ruin seems to have become a little troublesome. Yi Mo will definitely cooperate with Huang Shui. Boss and Yi Mo's confrontation was already hard enough. Now that Huang Shui has come, the situation is very unfavorable for us. General Sand Crocodile frowned. Qi Fei sneered. Of course we can't fight head-on. Let's go and see the Wild Sand King first. They discussed what to do next. I must get the God's Fruit. Since Yi Mo did not know what was good for him, then he could only get rid of him as well. That Yi Qiu had just been cured of the poison, so it would take at least a few months for him to recover. Therefore, as long as they killed Yi Mo and Yi Qiu during this period of time, they could shift the blame to the royal family. Then I would be able to marry Yi Hua, and I would still be able to take over the Sword King army. No wonder King Quan sent you here. Young Master Qi is truly a genius. being your enemy, I'm afraid that nothing good will come out of it. General Sand Crocodile saw Chi Fei's vicious glare and shuddered. This brat was truly vicious. If this plan succeeded, then it would be killing many birds with one stone. About half an hour later, in the meeting hall of the general's residence, Yi Mo and Yi Qiu both appeared there. Ling Xiao brought Yifeng Hua and cold plum over. Everyone was preparing to discuss the matter of the ruins. Yi Mo looked at Yi Qiu, his eyes filled with joy and relief. It was as if he had suddenly become 10 years younger. The stone that had been weighing on his heart for 10 years had finally been lifted. It was a very comfortable feeling. Yi Qiu's recovery speed also exceeded Yi Mo's expectations. He believed that this was all thanks to Ling Xiao. That seemingly ordinary medicinal pill contained astonishing effects. Young master, I can't thank you enough. If you need me in the future, just let me know. Yi Qiu stood up and clasped his hands at Ling Xiao. If it was an ordinary person who could not move their legs for 10 years, it would be impossible for them to stand up in such a short time. But Yi Qiu could. He was once a divine soul realm expert, and his talent was not inferior to Yang Qi and Yin Li's. Moreover, Ling Xiao was not a boast. The pills he refined were extremely effective. This was also the main reason why Yi Qiu could stand up. Then it would be impolite for me to refuse. Ling Xiao was not modest at all. He did not know Yi Mo and Yi Qiu, and he did not ask for anything in return for saving them. It was so that the father and son could be loyal to him. This was what he deserved. There was no need to be coy and refuse to accept. He, young master, is straightforward. Then I won't say anything unnecessary. Let's talk about the ruins. Young master came this time, nominally to persuade this Yi on behalf of the imperial family, but in reality you should be aiming for the ruins, right? Yi Mo smiled. You can say that. Ling Xiao nodded and said, the flower of law in the ruins is related to my plan. So I have to get it. As for the fruit of gods, if possible, I want it as well. As for the plan, after the treasure hunt is over, I will naturally tell you. After all, Your Excellency Sword King is an indispensable part of my plan. Ling Xiao's ambition was huge. It was an ambition that others did not dare to imagine. Unifying the mystic world, probably even the strongest king of sovereigns in this world, did not think of it. Although the king of sovereigns was powerful, there was no lack of powerhouses among the people too. In order to maintain his current position, he definitely did not dare to easily offend. But Ling Xiao did not care. Ling Xiao was just a minor character. Even His Majesty, the Sky Tyrant Empire's Heavenly Emperor, was still a minor character, to be honest. Could not compare to the King of Sovereigns. One was simply the crimson sun, and the other was the candle flame. The disparity was too great. So he dared to have such ambition, to be willing to be cut into pieces, to dare pull the emperor off his high horse. Hearing Ling Xiao's words, Yi Mo and Yi Qiu exchanged a glance, both seeing the shock in the other party's eyes. The ruins were actually not Ling Xiao's main objective. Just what kind of blueprint was this young man sketching in his heart? Really made people look forward to it. Rest assured, young master, that flower of law and fruit of gods will be handled by young master. Yi Mo saying so was equivalent to already expressing his stance. Even if he obtained those two things, he would also give them to Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao smiled and said, with your words, I can rest assured. However, you don't have to be afraid. As long as a god's fruit is in my hands, I will be able to obtain it. As long as I have one fruit of gods, I will be able to refine at least 10 deity pills. When the time comes, both father and son will get one each. Although Yi Mo and Yi Qiu were very loyal, Ling Xiao could not give them any benefits just because of this. That would sooner or later make them bitterly disappointed. There are a total of 3 deity fruits. Yi Mo said, I wonder if you can give me one more deity pill. I can give it to you, but if you want to give it to your daughter, Yi Hua, I suggest you give it up. During this period of time, you have to keep a close eye on your daughter. If she does something stupid again, you might regret it for the rest of your life." Ling Xiao was very disgusted with Yi Hua, and he did not hide this fact. He would not pretend to be kind in front of Yi Mo. Hate is hate. Chapter 5176. Yi Hua, this woman. Ling Xiao saved her brother, but she didn't even say a word of apology. Instead, she only thought about Qi Fei. Could it be that a woman in love was so stupid? However, no matter how stupid she was still Yi Mo's daughter and Yi Qiu's sister. Ling Xiao felt that it was necessary to remind her, lest this stupid woman cause trouble again. "I've already sent people to keep an eye on Yi Hua. You can rest assured. She's just obsessed for a moment. She'll slowly come to her senses. Let's talk about the ruins. I'm sure you've already read the information, right?" Yi Mo sighed. Because of Yi Qiu, he had spoiled Yi Hua too much in the past. This led to his daughter's stupidity. Therefore, he didn't want to be too harsh on his daughter. Ling Xiao didn't continue to dwell on this matter. He nodded and said, "I've already read the information. I've summarized a few points. First, the ruins are very dangerous. It's not only because of the black sandstorm, but also because of the powerful demonic beasts in the ruins. Second, our main competitor is the black sandstorm. However, we still need to consider Huang Shui. We can use her first and then seize the opportunity to snatch the treasures. Third, the land of exile used to be a part of the eternal divine realm. Later, due to desertification, a large number of cities and countries were submerged. The ruins were left behind by a force called the Soul Armor Sect. Fourth, the Soul Armor Sect is good at forging soul armors. Their skills are the best in the eternal divine realm. The so-called soul armors are martial soul battle armors. Battle armors made specifically for martial souls are very special techniques. They can only be made with sacred runes and arrays, as well as powerful soul power. Fifth, although the Soul Armor Sect was destroyed due to the natural disaster, many powerful martial souls were left behind to guard the sect. The martial souls guarding the Flower of Law and God's Fruit are all powerful divine soul, realm martial souls. However, I don't understand. Can martial souls leave the human body and exist independently? At this point, Ling Xiao suddenly asked, "They don't exist independently. They're rooted in the warrior's soul. These martial souls wear soul armors. On the soul armors are the soul imprints of the soul armor sect's experts." Yi Mo explained, "Young master, you have a good memory and a strong analytical ability. You've listed out the most important parts. That's about it. I'm still too weak." Ling Xiao sighed. No matter how smart he was, without strength, people would feel powerless. The divine soul, realm martial spirit was guarding it. He could only rely on Yi Mo and Yi Qiu to solve this. Therefore, he planned to postpone his trip to the ruins for 3 days. In any case, with such a powerful item guarding it, regardless of whether it was the Wild Sand King or Huang Shui, it would not be easy for them to obtain it. Moreover, he might even be able to reap the benefits without doing anything. How strong is the Wild Sand King? Ling Xiao suddenly asked. He's a bit more powerful than me. You should know that back then, the 3 of us had to join hands to seriously injure him. Yi Mo smiled bitterly. The Wild Sand King might be stronger than His Excellency Sword King, but he's definitely not as strong as you make him out to be. Although the 3 of them are working together, I'm afraid that one of them is holding them back. Ling Xiao was referring to King Quan. Right, I asked you to monitor Qi Fei. How's it going? Hearing this question, Yi Mo suddenly smiled bitterly and shook his head. He's been killed. None of the people monitoring him were left alive. Their blood was all sucked dry. This method is very similar to the Wild Sand King's subordinate, General Sand Crocodile. Now that you mention it, it's clear. Ling Xiao had originally supported his guess, but once this clue came out, everything seemed to have become clear. The Qi family has already joined hands with the Black Sandstorm organization. It's even possible that the Black Sandstorm organization has been supported by the Qi family all these years. No wonder the Qi family is not worried about leaving Qi Fei here alone. With the help of the Black Sandstorm organization, he does not need anyone else to interfere. What? Hearing Ling Xiao's guess, Yi Mo was shocked. However, after thinking about it carefully, many details were exposed. A few years ago, some of the martial artists in his army who firmly opposed the Qi family were quietly killed. In the end, they found out that it was the Wild Sand King who did it. Yi Mo did not think too much about it and just blamed it on the Wild Sand King. But now, it seemed that the Qi family was slowly removing obstacles in order to take over the Sword King army. That's really ruthless. Yi Mo's face was extremely gloomy. Qi Fei, Qi family, I am irreconcilable with you. He was someone who loved his soldiers like his children. How could he not be angry when so many of his subordinates were killed? Since Qi Fei has already joined hands with the Wild Sand King, we can be at ease. There's only one target left. Ling Xiao sneered and said, Sword King, this trip to the ruins is very dangerous, so you only need to send some elites. Also, the city has to be on guard. I'm guessing that Qi Fei definitely has a backup plan. Also, you have to remove the Qi family from the Sword King army in these 3 days. Can you do it? Young master can rest assured about this. All these years, we all know who the Qi family has planted. We just pretended not to see it. We just want to catch them all in one go. Yi Qiu smiled. All right, since that's the case, it's easy. I'll leave the matter of removing the spies to you, Yi Qiu. Senior Sword King, what you need to do is to gather all the martial artists above the 9th level of the Divine Physique Echelon. Half of them will stay in the Sword King city. The other half will head to the ruins. Is that okay? Ling Xiao immediately made the arrangements. Since Yi Mo and Yi Qiu listened to him, there was no need to be courteous. Understood. Yi Mo and Yi Qiu looked at each other and saw the seriousness in each other's eyes. Ling Xiao's orders obviously didn't seem like someone who had never experienced war before. Moreover, the arrangements were appropriate and consistent with their expectations. Naturally, they had no need to object. I also need to set up a formation for the Sword King city in these 3 days, just in case. Sword King, send someone to me. After all, I'm still not familiar with the Sword King city. Ling Xiao said. No problem. Yi Mo sent his most capable subordinate to assist Ling Xiao. Ling Xiao left with his men. Looking at his departing figure, Yi Mo couldn't help but sigh. Qiu! Perhaps we've really followed the right person this time. I didn't expect that a bad thing would turn into a good thing instead. That's right. Not only is this brother Ling extremely talented, but he's also skilled in medicine, sacred patterns, and formations. He's practically omnipotent. Yi Qiu said as he looked at Ling Xiao's departing figure with admiration. He had already sworn in his heart that he would protect this benefactor of his with his own life. In the next 3 days, Ling Xiao was busy setting up the formation. Yi Mo and Yi Qiu also had their own matters to attend to. Those rats that were hiding in the Sword King's army were all ferreted out and killed. Since they had broken off relations with the Qi clan, there was no need to be merciful anymore. Spies were the most detestable existence in the world. Even if the two armies were at war and didn't kill captives, spies were still targets that had to be killed. Chapter 5177. Yu Fanghua and Cold Plum had gotten some good stuff from Sword King Yi Mo and had been cultivating for the past 3 days. They hoped that they could break through to the early stage of the Divine Body 9th level before heading to the ruins. That way, they would be able to help Ling Xiao in more ways. On the 3rd day, 2 rays of light suddenly rose from Ling Xiao's residence. A ray of bright moonlight, a ray of dark green natural light. The 2 rays of light rose several 100 feet high. It lasted for a long time. In the end, I didn't let down the good stuff that I shamelessly got from Yemo. Both of you have broken through. Looking at you, Feng Hua and Cold Plum, Ling Xiao revealed a happy smile. With the 2 of them breaking through, the operation this time would be more assured. Let's go. Yi Mo and Yi Qiu are already waiting for us outside. Don't let them wait for too long. The 2 of them nodded and got up to pack up. Then they followed Ling Xiao out of the room and went straight out of the city. Outside the city, Yi Mo, Yi Qiu, and a group of elite martial artists were waiting there. Yi Qiu had already completely recovered. Not only that, but because of the 10 years of accumulation after he recovered, he actually broke through consecutively. His strength had reached the peak of the 3rd level divine soul realm. At his age, there weren't many people who could reach such a level of cultivation. Or rather, it was simply extremely rare. In these 10 years, Yi Mo had used too many elixirs on Yi Qiu. However, most of them had been stored in Yi Qiu's body as energy. In addition, Yi Qiu had never given up on cultivating. Even if he couldn't use his divine energy, he still persevered. This kind of tenacity was probably something that others couldn't compare to. It was precisely because of this that he was so strong now. Yi Qiu is our secret weapon this time. Ling Xiao smiled and said, Senior Sword King, you are in charge of dealing with the Wild Sand King. I will inscribe a few sacred runes for you. It should be able to make up for the difference between you and the Wild Sand King. You don't have to worry about the rest. Just suppress the Wild Sand King with all your strength. Even if you can't kill him, you have to hold him back. Wild Sand King's subordinates, General Sand Crocodile and General Scorpion. I'll leave them to Senior's subordinates. Is that all right? Of course, there's no problem. Other than me, there are 2 other divine soul realm experts in the Sword King army who are inferior to General Sand Crocodile and General Scorpion. These 2 are my strongest lieutenants. Although there are many deputy generals in the Sword King army, there's still a ranking. Yi Mo replied, That's great. Ling Xiao nodded. Let's not talk nonsense. Let's set off immediately. Set off. Yi Mo waved his hand at the crowd. Then, the group of over 100 people began to move toward the ruins of the Soul Armor sect. The team moved at a very fast speed, like a torrent rushing through the desert. However, they did not underestimate the enemy and were always on guard against sneak attacks. However, this was left to Cold Plum to handle. Although it was a desert, there were also many desert plants. This was very simple for her. There was a natural underground cave near the ruins of the Soul Armor sect. The Wild Sand King treated this place as his temporary base. At this moment, Chi Fei was sitting there, discussing with the Wild Sand King about the ruins. It's been 3 days. The Sword King city has finally made a move. Should we also make a move? Chi Fei could not wait any longer. He wanted to see Ling Xiao and Yi Mo die as soon as possible. Why are you panicking? That Princess Huang Shui from the Golden Region entered the ruins before. In the end, she came out with a nose full of dust. This ruins is a little strange. I'm afraid it's impossible to get the treasure with just one force. Who knows, we might have to cooperate with the Sword King army for the time being. The one who spoke was a black-clothed martial artist with disheveled hair. This person had the face of a natural villain. No matter what expression he had, one could feel that he was thinking of something bad. His voice was not loud, but it was filled with cunning and worldly wisdom. This was the Wild Sand King. If the Wild Sand King was a fool, he would have been killed long ago. He would not have lived until today. Cooperate with the Sword King army? Chi Fei frowned. To be honest, he was extremely unwilling to see such a thing happen. However, if they could not enter the ruins, they would not be able to get the treasure. Killing Ling Xiao and the Sword King did not seem to have much meaning. That's right. It's a cooperation. Of course, when we cooperate, your plan can continue. Actually, I also want to see Yemo return to the ruins of the Sword King city. The Wild Sand King sneered. You are more vicious than me. Chi Fei looked at the Wild Sand King and took a deep breath. On the surface, he was talking about cooperation with a smile, but behind his back he was attacking someone else's base. It was indeed terrifying. This is what Yemo asked for. I have not forgotten the enmity from 10 years ago. The Wild Sand King said coldly, this time many experts in the land of exile have been persuaded by me. They have been under the surveillance of the Sword King city all these years and cannot escape. However, if the Sword King city is destroyed, they can escape with their lives. Even if they go to places like the 4 regions and 9 worlds, it is still better than staying in the land of exile and suffering. Are you sure there is no problem? The Sword King city has stood in the land of exile for so many years, but no one has been able to break through it, not even you. Among the others, there is no one who can compare to you. It is even more impossible for them. Chi Fei frowned. That is why I said you are still too inexperienced. The Dual Axe City will also take action. My adopted son, Yihan, has already become the city lord of the Dual Axe City. Back then, when I sent Yihan to Sword King City to cultivate, he already showed his terrifying talent and intelligence. He has already learned everything Yemo knows. The Wild Sand King said indifferently, with the cooperation of the Dual Axe City and the encirclement of the land of exile, it is only a matter of time before the Sword King City falls, unless it is protected by a powerful formation. Vicious. Chi Fei was taken aback, then said heavily, now, there was no need for him to worry about the Sword King City. He only needed to focus on the ruins of the Soul Armor sect. The land of exile was not as chaotic as Ling Xiao had imagined, although it was full of slaughter and strife. In fact, it was a society similar to the Eternal Divine Domain. The prisoners and adventurers here formed a complete social system. In fact, the Black Sandstorm was not the only organization here. There were many large and small factions, even sects and cities. However, they were all built by the prisoners. On the way to the Soul Armor sect, Ling Xiao passed by many cities and towns. These cities and towns built on the oases were not very prosperous, but they had a complete model. There were markets and restaurants. It was very complete. It could be said that a sparrow, although small, had all the essentials. Many warriors saw the army from the Sword King city. Although most of them had hatred in their eyes, they did not dare to do anything. The Sword King, Yemo, alone was enough to intimidate them. Not to mention that this 100-man army was made up of Divine Soul Realm experts. The only ones who were not in the Divine Soul Realm were Ling Xiao, Cold Plum, and Yu Fenghua. These people were the elites of the Sword King city. They were also the strongest faction in the land of exile. Even the Black Sandstorm did not dare to fight against them. Chapter 5178. The martial artists on the road avoided the Sword King city when they saw them. No one dared to approach them. Ling Xiao and the others could not be bothered with them. They sped up and soon arrived at the Soul Armor sect's ruins. Because of the ruins, a large number of martial artists had gathered here. They even set up a market outside the ruins. They specialized in selling materials and tools for exploration. Sword King City and Black Sandstorm tried to occupy the Soul Armor sect's ruins. However, the Soul Armor sect's ruins were too big. They could not do it. Ordinary martial artists would only be sending themselves to their deaths. The number of elite martial artists was limited. In the end, the two factions turned a blind eye to it. After all, their main enemy was the other party, not those little rats. The only thing those rats could do was to go in and get some so-called treasures. The rats might be overjoyed, but the two factions did not care about them at all. Of course, If the rats really got something good, the two factions would definitely fight for it. The only difference between the land of exile and the eternal divine dominion was that there were no rules here. The weak were prey to the strong. This was the most basic situation. General, the Sword King City's martial artist stationed near the Soul Armor Sect's ruins hurried over when they saw Yi Mo. What's the situation? Yi Mo asked as he dismounted from the lion camel. General, there is no movement from Black Sandstorm. They seem to be waiting for something. However, a few days ago, Vice General Qi Fei met with Wild Sand King. Also, Princess Huang Shui brought people into the ruins. However, they came out very quickly. A few people died. It seems that things did not go well. That person replied, Young Master, your guess is correct. Doesn't that mean that he is indeed with the Wild Sand King? That bastard. Yi Mo was already unhappy with Qi Fei. When he heard that Qi Fei was with Wild Sand King, his killing intent surged. It's expected. General, please arrange for everyone to rest. We will officially enter the ruins tomorrow. Ling Xiao planned to go in alone to explore. He had a strong survival ability. Even Yi Mo could not compare to him in this aspect. If he encountered any danger, he could escape in time. Understood. Tell everyone to rest. I will accompany young master. Yi Mo was worried about Ling Xiao. After all, both Huang Shui and Qi Fei wanted Ling Xiao's life. It was more suitable for him to be by her side. After instructing his subordinates to settle everyone down to rest, he followed Ling Xiao to stroll around nearby. Most of the things sold in the market here were materials and tools shipped in from outside. However, there were also some things that were obtained from the ruins. Most of them didn't have much value, and some of them had unknown uses. Nobody knew what they were used for. These fellows could not see through it, nor were they interested in it. They only wanted to sell these scrap metals at a high price. Young master, I can tell that you're someone who knows what's what. I have a treasure that I just got from the ruins. Take a look. Ling Xiao was stopped by a vendor. His stall was filled with junk, and some of them looked like they could no longer be used. Therefore, there were fewer customers. However, Ling Xiao could tell that the things in this stall were at least genuine antiques. Unlike many of the items on the stalls nearby, they were obviously fakes. It was just a little more glamorous. Ling Xiao squatted down, opened his taiji, and carefully looked at the scrap metal. How much is this? Ling Xiao suddenly pointed at one of the broken swords. Young master, you have good eyes. This broken sword had 6 divine dragon patterns before it was broken. Although it's broken, it must have some research value. I don't want much. Just 100 supreme-grade spirit stones will do. The vendor said with a smile, Are you robbing me? Without waiting for Ling Xiao to speak, Yi Qiu said, Even if it used to be an emperor weapon with 6 divine dragon patterns, it's just a piece of scrap metal now. Not to mention 100 supreme-grade spirit stones. Even 1 supreme-grade spirit stone might not be worth it. The vendor's old face turned red. Only he knew if he was asking for too much. 1 supreme-grade spirit stone. Are you selling it? Ling Xiao asked. That's too little. Let's increase it a little. My brothers went in with great difficulty. They almost lost their lives. The vendor smiled bitterly. How about this? You give me 10 supreme-grade spirit stones, and the item is yours. 5. Ling Xiao said without changing his expression. Okay, deal. Tan Fa gritted his teeth and was about to pass the item to Ling Xiao. Suddenly, an annoying voice rang out. Haha, I was wondering who it was. So it's the Sword King army. Don't you find it embarrassing to bully an honest vendor? I'll take your broken sword. You can have 10 supreme-grade spirit stones. Ling Xiao frowned and turned to look at the person who spoke. As expected, it was Qi Fei. This guy actually dared to appear. Wasn't he afraid that Yi Mo would kill him in a fit of anger? Or was the Wild Sand King here as well? Thinking of this, he opened his Tai Chi eye and looked into the crowd. As expected, a powerful aura rushed toward him. The Wild Sand King really came. "You dog, you actually dare to appear in front of me. Do you want to die?" As expected, Yemo was angry. Out of sight, out of mind. If Chi Fei didn't appear, he wouldn't be so angry. However, Chi Fei didn't know what was good for him. A terrifying aura rushed toward Chi Fei. Chi Fei was only in the early stage of the 9th level divine physique realm. How could he resist Yemo's terrifying aura? He sat on the ground immediately. His face was pale. "Yemo, you old thing, how dare you touch me? Do you believe that our Chi family will destroy the entire Sword King city?" Although Chi Fei felt terrible, he was still a formidable character. He didn't back down because of this. He shouted sternly, "Then let them come. I'd like to see who can kill me other than King Quan." Yemo sneered. He didn't restrain his aura at all and walked toward Chi Fei. "Wild Sand King, do you still want to watch the show? If I die, you won't have an easy time either." Chi Fei was finally scared. He roared, "Yemo, Yemo, you were like this back then. You're still like this now. 10 years have passed, and you're still as irritable as before. If this goes on, your reputation won't last long." The Wild Sand King finally showed himself. His powerful aura collided with Yemo. Only then did Chi Fei let out a breath of turbid air. It was obvious that he felt much better. "So this is the Wild Sand King?" Ling Xiao looked at the man in front of him. He probably couldn't find a second person in the land of exile who was on par with the Sword King. Yemo, that's right. That's the Wild Sand King. He was the one who caused the massacre in the Golden Martial Nation. Yi Qiu nodded. His eyes were filled with intense hatred as he looked at the Wild Sand King. 10 years. The Wild Sand King made him suffer for 10 whole years. Although he had returned to normal because of Ling Xiao, the hatred in his heart wouldn't disappear so easily. The appearance of the Wild Sand King also caused chaos in the market. If he were to fight with the Sword King here, the entire market would be destroyed. The merchant with the broken sword turned around and wanted to escape. However, he was stopped by the people from both sides. Right now, they weren't fighting for a broken sword. They were fighting for their reputation. Chapter 5179. Yemo, I don't want to fight with you here. I'm here today because I have something to discuss with you. The Wild Sand King retracted his aura, but he didn't let down his guard. He knew very well how much pain he had brought to Yemo's son, Yi Qiu. He couldn't guarantee that Yemo wouldn't suddenly attack. "What do I have to discuss with you?" Yemo also retracted his aura. The moment the Wild Sand King appeared, it was impossible for the battle to start. His mission was to stall the Wild Sand King when they were fighting for the treasure, not to fight here. Once they started fighting, others would be the ones to benefit. Although he was furious, he could only wait for a while to take his revenge. "Wild Sand King, remember this. If we meet in the Soul Armor Sect's ruins, I will definitely kill you." Yemo said coldly, "There's nothing to discuss between us." "Don't say that. You should know that it's impossible for any of us to get the treasure with just our strength. If we want to enter the depths of the ruins and get the treasure, we have to work together." The Wild Sand King smiled and said, "Let's go in together. As for who gets the treasure in the end, that will depend on their ability." "Work with you? Do you think I'm tired of living?" Yemo shook his head. No matter what, he wouldn't work with the Wild Sand King. The risk was too high. "If you're really sincere about working with me, you wouldn't have let that idiot Chi Fei come and snatch what I want to buy." Right at this moment, Ling Xiao spoke. The Wild Sand King suddenly looked at Ling Xiao and snorted. "I was wondering who it was. A piece of trash at the peak of the 6th level divine physique stage actually dares to talk so much. You don't have the right to speak here. He represents Golden King and me. Do you think he has the right?" Yi Mo sneered. Oh, Yi Mo's words surprised the Wild Sand King. No matter how he looked at it, Ling Xiao was just a trash martial artist at the peak of the 6th level divine physique stage. How could he represent Golden King and Sword King? He wasn't sure about Golden King, but since Yi Mo said so, it wouldn't be fake. He's the one who broke my curse and saved Ji Qiu, right? The Wild Sand King suddenly asked. You're smart. It's him. Yi Mo nodded and said, So that's how it is. To be able to break this king's curse, you do have some ability. I'll allow you to speak. Young Master Qi, it's just a broken sword. Don't fight with him over it. It's not a treasure. The Wild Sand King glanced at Ling Xiao and said to Qi Fei. Qi Fei was very unhappy. It was not because of the broken sword, but because he wanted to regain his face. However, since the Wild Sand King had already said so, he did not dare to say anything else. Although it was true that he was a member of the Qi clan, the Wild Sand King was a direct subordinate of the Quan King. If pushed too far, the Wild Sand King would even dare to kill him. A broken sword actually costs 5 top-grade spirit stones. I wouldn't want it even if you gave it to me. Qi Fei curled his lips. Ling Xiao ignored him. Others might not know the secret of the broken sword, but he did. With his Tai Chi eye, he could clearly see the mysterious saint runes and array formations hidden within the broken sword. It might be related to the ruins of the Soul Armor sect. Buying it for 5 top-grade spirit stones was definitely a huge profit. Is this sincere enough? Can we work together? The Wild Sand King asked. Ling Xiao nodded and said, Of course not. Brat, you're messing with me. The Wild Sand King's eyes revealed a sinister look. So what if I'm messing with you? Do you really think that everyone is afraid of you? Ling Xiao said disdainfully, Don't think that I don't know what you're thinking. You say that we're going to work together, but in your heart, you want to use us as cannon fodder. Brat, don't think that I won't dare to touch you just because Yi Mo is protecting you. If it's the Golden King, I might have some fear. However, Yi Mo is not as strong as me. If you rely on him, you'll definitely die. The Wild Sand King sneered. That might not be the case. Ling Xiao smiled faintly and said, Everything depends on one's effort. I think that if we really go all out, you won't be his opponent. Good, what an interesting brat. Don't fall into my hands. Otherwise, I'll let you taste the pain of 10,000 poisons. Yi Qiu will only suffer for 10 years. I'll make you beg for death for the rest of your life. The Wild Sand King said gloomily. His voice was like the hiss of a venomous snake. You've reached the end of your rope now that you've met me. Wild Sand King, someone protected you 10 years ago, so you weren't killed. Today, 10 years later, I'll make you pay the debt from 10 years ago. Ling Xiao said faintly. At this point, he suddenly turned his head to look at Qi Fei and continued with a sneer. Qi Fei, your ending won't be any better than his. You'd better follow in your brother's footsteps. You still dare to mention my brother? Qi Fei's face was extremely ferocious. So what if I did? You want to harm me, so why can't I deal with you? I like an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Your brother, Qi Heng, is the best example. Ling Xiao mocked. Don't brag. You're only at the 6th level of the divine physique echelon. What makes you think you can fight me? I'm at the 9th level of the divine physique echelon. You have someone protecting you today. I have nothing to say about your arrogance. However, let's wait and see. There's always a time when one has bad luck. Don't be left alone or I'll kill you, Qi Fei said fiercely. A loser actually dares to be so arrogant? Have you forgotten that you lost to me in one move? Ling Xiao mocked. Qi Fei opened his mouth. His old face flushed red, but he couldn't say anything to refute. He could only give up helplessly. Since you guys aren't willing to cooperate, I can only find someone else. The wild Sand King sneered and turned to leave. Chi Fei also hurriedly followed after him. After being snubbed by Ling Xiao and Yi Mo, the wild Sand King and Chi Fei would probably look for Huang Shui to cooperate. However, Ling Xiao couldn't stop them. Senior Sword King passed down the order to enter the ruin immediately. Ling Xiao suddenly said as he watched the wild Sand King disappear into the yellow sand. Understood. Yi Mo was a smart person. He naturally understood Ling Xiao's order. Now that the wild Sand King wanted to cooperate with Huang Shui, they had to change their original plan and enter earlier. They had to catch the other party off guard. Half an hour later, the Sword King City's team had all entered the ruin. The wild Sand King also officially met with Huang Shui. However, before long, someone came to report, "Boss, those bastards from Sword King City have entered the ruin ahead of time." Huang Shui stood up abruptly when she heard this news. Her face was filled with anxiety as she said, "All right, let's not talk nonsense. It's fine if you want to cooperate. I don't want any treasures. But you have to kill Ling Xiao." The wild Sand King was stunned. Huang Shui, who was still bargaining with him a moment ago, suddenly became so generous. "It's fine, but why is your highness in such a hurry? The ruin is filled with danger, and your highness has personally experienced it. So what if they enter? Who knows? They might come out very quickly." The wild Sand King asked doubtfully, "You don't understand that Ling Xiao. That brat's cultivation might not be high, but he's extremely cunning. Moreover, he has great abilities and is proficient in all kinds of strange techniques. With him around, no one can guarantee that the Sword King City's team won't succeed." Huang Shui said anxiously. Chapter 5180. Huang Shui had once underestimated Ling Xiao before, but after experiencing several setbacks, she deeply understood a principle. That was how difficult Ling Xiao, that kid, was to deal with. What others could not do, Ling Xiao might not be able to do. Facing this kid, she definitely could not lower her guard. "All right, since that's the case, we'll set off immediately. But you don't have to worry too much. I still have a perfect plan. I guarantee that they'll all die inside and can't come out. But that plan is somewhat dangerous. It might even trap us. So unless it's a last resort, I won't use it." The wild Sand King was a cautious person. After hearing Huang Shui's evaluation of Ling Xiao, and then thinking about his curse being removed, this Ling Xiao was indeed not easy to deal with. "No matter what, let's set off. As long as you can kill Ling Xiao, I can help you get what you want." In order to kill Ling Xiao, Huang Shui did not hesitate to cooperate with the wild Sand King. On the other side, inside the ruins of the Soul Armor sect, the further in they went, the fewer people there were. When they were about 1,000 meters away from the entrance, apart from the people of Sword King City, there was not a single neutral martial artist in sight. Ling Xiao's group had consecutively passed through 3 layers of array formations to reach here. This was naturally all thanks to Ling Xiao's contribution. Although it was no problem to rely on divine soul realm powerhouses to forcefully break it, it was an array formation that had fallen into disrepair for many years after all. It was not as sturdy as before, but not only was the movement great, but the consumption was also great. It was very not worth it. It's going to fork from here. The left is where the Flower of Law is, and the right is where the God Fruit is. In order to investigate this information, we lost many experts. Even I personally took action. I didn't expect it to be so easy this time. People who understand array formations are really different. Yi Mo was somewhat rueful. If he had known earlier, he would have learned some array formation knowledge. "Let's find the Flower of Law first," Ling Xiao said after some thought. Perhaps to others, the God Fruit was the most urgent thing to obtain. But to Ling Xiao, it was the exact opposite. What he needed more was the Flower of Law. The Flower of Laws is of little use to the cultivators of the eternal divine realm. However, it was said that powerful alchemists could use the flower of law and other herbs to refine pills that were beneficial to martial artists. Therefore, there were also some people fighting for the flower of law. However, very few were able to reach that place. In the end, none of them managed to obtain it. Yi Qiu reminded, "We already knew about these difficulties before coming here. No matter what, we must obtain the flower of law. This is related to whether or not my plan can be carried out smoothly." If Ling Xiao wanted to achieve his ambitions, he could not be afraid of difficulties. "Listen to young master, let's go." Yi Mo waved his hand, and everyone rushed towards the flower of law. More than 20 minutes passed. The joint team formed by Wild Sand King and Huang Shui also arrived at the fork. A black shadow flashed out from the darkness. He bowed and said, "Boss, they went to the flower of law." Strange? Flowers of laws aren't very useful to people from the eternal divine realm. What does he need them for? Wild Sand King frowned and said, "Forget it. Let's go look for the deity's fruit first. Even if he obtains the flower of law, so what? He can forget about leaving alive." "No, we must kill Ling Xiao first." Huang Shui shook her head and said, "If you want to obtain the deity's fruit, you must borrow our strength. So, kill Ling Xiao first, then look for the deity's fruit." What a troublesome woman! Wild Sand King frowned. He really wanted to kill this Huang Shui, but she had experts protecting her. Even if he could kill her, it would definitely consume a lot of energy. At that time, it would be a joke if Yi Mo took advantage of it. Moreover, just as Huang Shui said, if he wanted to obtain the deity's fruit, he must borrow Huang Shui's strength. The reason why this journey was so easy was that Huang Shui's team had a formation master. "Forget it, then we'll go kill people first." "But Huang Shui, listen up. If you dare to go back on your words after killing that brat, I'll definitely make sure you can't return to the Golden Domain. Others might be afraid of your father, but I'm not." Wild Sand King threatened Huang Shui for a while before chasing after Ling Xiao and the others. After entering the ruins, Ling Xiao and the rest slowed down. Although they wanted to quickly obtain the flower of law, the ruins were full of danger. They had to be on guard, because the Soul Armor sect had been destroyed tens of thousands of years ago. There were many places in the ruins that were simply sacred grounds for demonic beasts. Along the way, they encountered several waves of powerful demonic beasts. Fortunately, this team was very strong. In addition, Cold Plum discovered the enemies in time, so they could easily resolve the crisis. "Be careful, there's a demonic beast ambush ahead," Cold Plum suddenly warned. Yi Mo skillfully made a few hand gestures. Without needing to say anything, those experts under him had already arranged the battle formation. "I'll lure them out." Ling Xiao's figure dashed out. Soon after, he heard the roars of demonic beasts. Ling Xiao's figure was nowhere to be seen. Dozens of demonic beasts charged over, looking ferocious. It was as if their partner to carry on their ancestral line had been snatched away. "Attack!" Yi Mo shouted. The experts under him rushed out one after another and fought with those demonic beasts. He didn't attack, as the commander and the top expert among these people. He had to be prepared to fight against strong enemies at all times. His current task was to conserve his strength. The demonic beasts weren't weak, but unfortunately they encountered this group of divine soul realm experts. Naturally, they were no match for them. In just a few minutes, the battle had already ended. Just as everyone was about to heave a sigh of relief, a black shadow suddenly charged toward Cold Plum. This guy had been hiding in the dark for a long time. He was waiting for the moment when everyone relaxed to attack. Unfortunately, he had calculated wrongly. Even if everyone else relaxed their vigilance, Ling Xiao wouldn't. God-defying technique. At the critical moment, Ling Xiao used his most powerful move. The move after the God-defying technique's cross-form. When this move was used, it contained the terrifying will to resist the gods. Everyone was intimidated by this. That monster that had reached the peak of the 9th level of the divine body realm was actually repelled and shattered by Ling Xiao's sword. Ling Xiao felt as if all the strength in his body had been drained. Fortunately, the god-defying sword helped him bear some of the pressure. Only then did he manage to not faint. The god-defying technique was even more powerful than the 9 dragons' divine art. It was just that the consumption was also much greater. Fortunately, with the god-defying sword in hand, it was much easier to use the god-defying technique than the 9 dragons' divine art. Don't relax. That should be the martial soul phantom wearing the soul armor. It's even more difficult to deal with than the demonic beasts. Ling Xiao shouted and then hurriedly swallowed a handful of pills. The pills that were exceptionally precious in the eyes of others were swallowed by him without hesitation. Anyway, his body was very strong and could bear it. He also knew how to refine pills, so he wasn't afraid of wasting them. The soul armor sect could actually create such a terrifying thing. Perhaps they were really strong back then. Yi Mo was also shocked. If it weren't for Ling Xiao just now, Cold Plum would have been ambushed. Chapter 50-181. These martial souls have already fused with the soul armor and contain the strength of the soul armor sect's experts. If we can get them, it will be a great help. Yi Mo looked at the shattered martial soul and sighed. But young master, your attack just now was really strong. Do you want to take a rest? No, let's continue. Ling Xiao shook his head. Although he had consumed a lot of energy, he could recover quickly with so many people protecting him. However, Yi Mo's words reminded Ling Xiao of something. Was there any way to subdue these martial soul warriors? If he succeeded, even if the empire of Tyrant Heavens moved into the eternal divine realm in advance, they would have certain level of protection. With this protection, they could develop slowly. Then, the group continued to move forward. Along the way, they encountered a few waves of demon beast attacks. Although a few people were injured, it was not a big deal. With Ling Xiao, a powerful medicine master, their injuries could be healed in a moment. The demon beasts were easier to deal with. After all, they were not very strong. But the martial soul warriors were troublesome. Moreover, these martial soul warriors seemed to have noticed that Cold Plum played a key role in this team. So, many of their sneak attacks were targeted at Cold Plum. Fortunately, with the lesson learned, the next few times could be said to be daunting, but not dangerous. Ling Xiao was lucky enough to check a few more intact martial soul warrior corpses. To put it bluntly, this corpse was a soul armor. On the soul armor, there were arrays and sacred inscriptions to seal the powerful martial soul and experts' cultivation. Along the way, he did not attack again. While recovering, he pondered about these arrays and sacred inscriptions. His eyes were filled with excitement. After about 20 minutes, the group finally arrived at the place where the Flower of Law was. The Flower of Law grew in a muddy swamp. It grew out of the mud without being stained. To Ling Xiao's surprise, there were other martial artists here. However, it seemed that there was no way to get the Flower of Law. They were squatting there with a bitter face, racking their brains. The martial artists who could make it here were all powerful. They were all godly soul realm experts. However, compared to Ling Xiao's team, it was obviously not enough. Therefore, those people appeared to be more nervous and vigilant at this time. Ling Xiao did not pay any attention to them. Instead, he looked at a field of flowers in the swamp. There wasn't just one flower of law, but an entire field. There were over 1,000 flowers of law. Every single one of them was in full bloom. The seemingly ordinary swamp emitted a strange aura of laws. Ling Xiao found traces of an array formation there. The Soul Armor sect and the Divine Rune sect are from the same era. They must have learned the Divine Rune art from the Divine Rune sect. Their mastery of the Divine Rune art is not bad, but it's far inferior to the Divine Rune sect. However, the Armor Soul sect's magic arrays and formations were quite powerful. The combination of the two stumped many people. After all, it's really rare to find a martial artist who knows both arrays and saint inscriptions. Thinking of this, Ling Xiao could not help but smile faintly. This was simply a relic prepared for him. He was glad that he had discovered the Divine Rune sect's ruins in advance. Otherwise, he would have had a headache today. Just as he was thinking about this, a rush of footsteps came from behind him. Everyone turned around and was on high alert. A group of people walked out of the darkness. We finally caught up. The flower of law has not been taken away yet. Seeing that Ling Xiao and the others had yet to make a move, Qi Fei was a little excited. He was one of the people who was most unwilling to see Ling Xiao being proud. Huang Shui, you're really something. You're actually colluding with the Wild Sand King. If the Golden King knows about this, he'll probably be furious. Ling Xiao looked at Huang Shui and said coldly, "So what if Father knows? There are no eternal enemies in this world, and no eternal friends. In order to achieve my goal, I don't mind cooperating with the devil, let alone the Wild Sand King." Huang Shui said disdainfully, "Although that's the case, you're simply asking a tiger for its skin. Be careful not to lose your life." Ling Xiao looked at Huang Shui indifferently. With this woman's shrewdness, it was impossible for her not to see through the Wild Sand King's intentions. Even so, she still wanted to cooperate. It was enough to show how crazy this woman was to achieve her goal. "You don't have to care about this matter. In any case, you must die here today. I don't care who gets the flower of law. I only want your life." Huang Shui's expression became incomparably malevolent. "Are you crazy? Do I have any deep hatred with you?" Ling Xiao was really speechless. Speaking of which, he should be the one who hated Huang Shui. Why did this woman treat him as a mortal danger? "You and I don't have any deep hatred, but your talent makes me feel fear. With you around, I'm afraid the Golden Martial Kingdom will not be peaceful in the future. Father is underestimating you too much. However, I won't. I will only be at ease if you die," Huang Shui said with gritted teeth. Ling Xiao shook his head. "Since that's the case, there's no room for discussion. Huang Shui, I originally didn't want to kill you. However, you've been making things difficult for me. As long as I have the chance today, I will definitely kill you. Let's not talk any more nonsense. Do it." Huang Shui looked at the Wild Sand King and said, "Everyone follow me into the swamp." Ling Xiao was deeply aware that the strength of his side could not possibly be a match for the other party's combined strength. Forcefully fighting would only result in disastrous casualties. However, he thought of a good method. He directly stepped into the swamp. The 100 people from Sword King City followed in without even thinking. "Crazy!" Huang Shui stopped her footsteps and shouted in shock. Her team had been here before, and they had lost a few people. This swamp was very strange and terrifying. When martial artists entered, they would first be poisoned. Then their bodies would be swallowed by the muddy swamp. No matter how strong they were, it was useless. It was precisely because of this that she stopped her footsteps and said that Ling Xiao was crazy. Ling Xiao's action was completely a kind of suicide. Those martial artists guarding the edge of the swamp were also dumbfounded. They had previously witnessed the appearance of martial artists dying miserably after entering the swamp with their own eyes. This fool actually brought so many experts to court death. Ha ha ha! Since they are courting death themselves, there's no need for us to make a move. The Wild Sand King also laughed heartily. To be honest, although he was slightly stronger than the Sword King Yemo, if he wanted to win, he would probably have to pay a disastrous price. Hence, if he could not fight, he would not be willing to fight no matter what. Dying like this is really letting him off too easily. Qi Fei gritted his teeth. He always wanted to make a move and kill Ling Xiao alone. It looked like there was no chance for that. under the many people's mocking and gloating gazes. Ling Xiao and the martial artists from Sorking City all stepped into the swamp. However, in the next instant, these people were all dumbfounded. What they imagined did not happen. Ling Xiao and the rest completely walked towards the Flower of Law without any problems. What's going on? Could it be that the array formation of the swamp was removed? Huang Shui was stunned for a moment before immediately ordering, "Chase, quickly chase for me!" Chapter 5182. Not just Huang Shui. Several neutral martial artists also pounced toward the swamp at the same time. But what followed were desperate screams and mournful wails. The few people who went in were all dead. Strange. Seeing those people die, Huang Shui, Wild Sand King, and the rest completely did not know what happened. Ling Xiao's sense of mystery increased again, but Yi Mo sighed in his heart. Ling Xiao's status in his heart became even higher. Not afraid of the swamp's poison. That was because everyone had poison resistance, sacred runes drawn on their bodies. Not afraid of falling into the swamp. That was because everyone had light body sacred runes drawn on their bodies. This swamp's array formation was very strange. It did not allow martial artists to use the slightest bit of divine essence or soul force. But if they did not use divine essence or soul force, they would definitely be poisoned to death or drowned. It looked simply unsolvable. Actually, if one knew the sacred rune art and array formation, it became very simple. Regardless of whether it was soaring in the air or resisting poison, it was all done by the sacred runes. Martial artists could not use any soul force or divine essence. Damn it, we actually let that guy have his way. Wild Sand King, Huang Shui, Qi Fei, and the rest were all helpless. This swamp completely trapped them. Instead, Sword King City's people could move freely. No matter, we'll just guard here. They have to come out after taking the thing. He still has to die. Huang Shui finally gritted her teeth and said, there was no other exit here. That was why Huang Shui had such a judgment. Sword King City's people arrived near the flower field. Ling Xiao waved his hand and transplanted that flower field into the mountain river world. This way, he could use the freshest flower of law to refine pills. Master, I found this. Cold Plum actually took out a bronze mirror from the depths of the swamp. Ling Xiao received the bronze mirror. The moment it entered his hand, he felt a powerful soul force undulation. Just as he was about to examine it carefully, he suddenly discovered that the array formation and sacred runes on the swamp disappeared. It looked like this bronze mirror should be the key to the array formation and sacred runes, providing energy for them. Already obtained the treasure. No need to stay here anymore. Let's go. Ling Xiao took out a refining array stone. What was sealed on it was a transmission array. He had already set up a marker at the fork in the road. Through the teleportation array activated by the array refining stone, one could directly reach the fork. F***CK, this works too. The Wild Sand King cursed. Hurry up and go to the deity fruit. Ling Xiao, this guy is really cunning. After he finished speaking, he turned around and ran out. Huang Shui did not hold back, either. After all, anyone could tell that Ling Xiao used a transportation formation. Their plan of waiting for him was completely useless. He could only try his best to hurry. Cunning fellow, I'll let you be proud for a while. You actually know how to set up a teleportation formation. However, I don't believe that your materials can be used many times. Everything you obtain will belong to us. Qi Fei glared fiercely at Ling Xiao before he left with the rest of the group. In fact, Qi Fei was right. Although it was easy to set up a teleportation array, the materials required were difficult to gather. If it wasn't a critical moment, he wouldn't use it. However, the array refining stone this time could be used 3 times. All the materials were provided by Yi Mo. Before he entered, he set up a marker outside. as long as it was within 1,000 meters. One could teleport to the place where the marker was at. This was also Ling Xiao's limit. Exceeding this distance would not work. The next instant, Ling Xiao and the rest already appeared at the fork in the road. They did not stop, but headed straight for the place where the deity fruit was at. Not far away, sounds of pursuit already came over. The enemy's speed was not slow. Sir, you're really resourceful. If not for you this time, that flower of law simply wouldn't be able to obtain so easily. Yi Mo said with vicissitudes of emotion. Senior Sword King, don't praise me anymore. Being successful once doesn't mean that it will be successful every time. I obtained the flower of law, but I haven't seen the shadow of the deity fruit yet. Ling Xiao shook his head and said, better put away the heart of underestimation, so as to avoid capsizing in the gutter. Not until the last moment. It's really hard to say whether we'll win. It's rare that Sir is so humble and cautious at such a young age. This he admires. Yi Mo discovered that he really liked Ling Xiao, this little fellow, more and more. Previously, he served in order to fulfill his promise, but with more and more contact, he liked to follow Ling Xiao more and more, because Ling Xiao could always surprise him. Not talking anymore, let's go. Ling Xiao was happy in his heart, but he knew that he could not be complacent at this moment. Only by successfully obtaining the deity fruit and then leaving safely would it be a true victory. At that time, he could hold a big banquet in Sword King City to celebrate. Speaking of Sword King City, at this time, a large number of people appeared around Sword King City. They surrounded Sword King City until not even a drop of water could trickle through. The one in charge of guarding Sword King City was Yi Qiu's mother, Feng Qiu. Don't look at how she was just a woman. Actually, back then, she and Yi Mo were the legendary sword pair. It was just that later. She gave birth to a child and gradually withdrew from people's sight. Now, Feng Qiu once again put on her armor and went into battle, just like that Mu Guiying and Hua Mulan. Originally, I thought that Sir Ling was just worrying for nothing. Didn't expect that his words came true. Feng Qiu stood on the city tower and looked coldly at the people besieging Sword King City. Fortunately, Sir Ling has set up the array. Otherwise, it would be difficult to defend the city with the current strength. Pass down the order. Activate the array. Whoever dares to attack will die. Do you really think that Sword King City is a pushover? Feng Qiu waved her hand and gave the order. Although the Divine Soul Realm experts had been transferred away, there were still many martial artists left in Sword King City. With the protection of the array, it would not be a problem for them to defend the city. I'll wait for you guys to come back and hold a banquet in Sword King City. The battle had already begun. Feng Qiu looked in the direction of the ruins. In fact, the situation there was worse than here. Back in the ruins. Master, what is this thing? Cold Plum pointed at the bronze mirror in Ling Xiao's hand and asked. They were not needed for the battle on the way. The martial artists in Sword King City were enough. This made Ling Xiao very glad that he had Yi Mo's support. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to snatch food from the tiger's mouth with his strength alone. He definitely could not deal with the terrifying demonic beasts and martial soul realm warriors. The weakest of them was at the 9th level of the divine physique realm. There were even demonic beasts that were at the divine soul realm. He was at his wit's end. It seems to be a Dharma treasure used to maintain the array and sacred runes. However, it has been damaged for a long time. Ling Xiao studied the bronze mirror carefully. It was not an emperor weapon. He could not find any clues. However, it was definitely stronger than an emperor weapon. It was a pity that it had not been maintained for a long time and had lost its luster. Is it still useful now? Yu Fenghua asked. Of course it is. Ling Xiao smiled and said, I've studied it. If the power of the bronze mirror is released instantly, it can instantly kill a divine soul realm expert. However, when that happens, the bronze mirror will be destroyed. So terrifying. Cold Plum and Yu Fenghua were shocked. Even if it could only be used once, it was simply a killing weapon. Chapter 5183. For Ling Xiao, although the bronze mirror in his hand was damaged, it had become a great killing weapon. At the critical moment, he wouldn't be reluctant to part with it. With this kind of thing in his hand, even if he was caught by the Wild Sand King, he would have the ability to turn defeat into victory. While the two were talking, Yemo and the experts of Sword King City were constantly clearing the obstacles on the road. Whether it was monster beasts or martial soul warriors, they were all killed. The difficulty was about the same as the Flower of Law. After all, this was just 2 forks in the road. Ling Xiao only needed to occasionally give healing pills to the injured cultivators. The injured would be protected, and the uninjured would continue to fight. Although during this period, they also encountered some cultivators fighting for other things, they were directly ignored. Ling Xiao's purpose in coming to this ruin was the Flower of Law and the God's Fruit. He had to get these 2 things first before thinking about other things. After more than 20 minutes, Cold Plum's excited voice sounded. Master, there is the aura of the God's Fruit. It seems that it should be arriving soon. Ling Xiao nodded and looked at Yi Mo. Brothers of Sword King City have worked hard. This time, I definitely won't let you work for nothing. Although Yi Mo promised to do things for him, the others in Sword King City didn't owe him anything. They also came in together and helped a lot. If Ling Xiao didn't give them some benefits, it would definitely not be justifiable. You all heard it, right? This young master won't let your blood and sweat go to waste. Put in more effort. The more good things you find, the more rewards you will get. Yi Mo also knew that although these experts were very loyal to him, he still had to give some appropriate rewards. Sometimes loyalty without reason was actually unreliable. Soon, everyone saw the God's Fruit. Although there was only one fruit, it was much bigger than imagined. The round fruit was at least 1 meter in diameter. Such a huge God's Fruit was naturally very eye-catching. The pure, white, holy light released from it made people feel like they were worshipping it. God's Fruit, there's no doubt about it. Ling Xiao had done his homework before coming here. He was already very familiar with what the God's Fruit looked like. However, the largest fruit recorded in the book was only the size of a watermelon. This one, however, was much bigger. This also meant that he could refine even more God pills. Previously, he had estimated that he could refine 10 pills. Now, it seemed that he could refine at least 100 pills. Just like the Flower of Law, the surroundings of the God Fruit were still filled with danger. Ling Xiao was thinking about how to solve it. Suddenly, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. It turned out that the Wild Sand King and Huang Shui's joint forces had arrived. However, because they were in a hurry, it seemed that not all of them had come. Only a few top experts had come. No one knew where Qi Fei had been thrown to. I finally caught up. I was almost tricked by that brat. When the Wild Sand King arrived and saw that the God Fruit was still there, he heaved a sigh of relief. Although he knew that the God Fruit would not be snatched away so easily, Ling Xiao had already displayed his extraordinary ability. He had to be careful. Ling Xiao, don't think that you can be proud of yourself just because you obtained the Flower of Law. Let me tell you, this God Fruit is mine. The Wild Sand King wanted the God Fruit because he wanted to upgrade his martial spirit to a God martial spirit. Although he was very powerful, in reality, his martial spirit was only an ordinary martial spirit. It was just a more powerful martial spirit among ordinary martial spirits, the Wild Sand martial spirit. If he could upgrade the Wild Sand martial spirit to a God martial spirit, then the Wild Sand King's strength would definitely increase. At that time, he would no longer have to listen to the Dog King. It was time for the Golden Martial Kingdom to have a new leader. Then you have to have the ability to obtain it. Ling Xiao mocked. Since I can obtain the Flower of Law, then I have the ability to obtain the god fruit. In this kind of place, strength is not absolute. Hee, do you think we will make the same mistake as before? Huang Shui, you think of a way to obtain the god fruit. I'll delay Yemo. Although not all of our people are here, we are still evenly matched with them. Keep an eye on Ling Xiao. This brat's ability is not small. The god fruit might fall into his hands again. The Wild Sand King already did not plan to wait for an opportunity slowly. He decided to delay Yi Mo first. Without Yi Mo, Ling Xiao could not even defeat the powerful martial spirit warrior guarding the god fruit. So what if he knew array formations and sacred runes? Finished talking, he already tore through the air and left. A patch of wild sand swept up in the void, directly enveloping Ling Xiao's side. He was not just attacking Yemo. He wanted to finish off Ling Xiao as well. This wild sand was not ordinary wild sand. It contained a terrifying curse poison. As long as one was touched or inhaled, one would be immediately poisoned. If the poison was mild, one could still rely on divine essence to force the poison out of the body. But if the poison was too severe, one would probably die on the spot. Yi Qiu, take good care of Sir Ling, remember, no matter what happens. Even if you lose the treasure, you have to ensure Sir Ling's safety. Yi Mo instructed Yi Qiu. The long sword in his hand trembled. Sword intent surged to the sky, and it actually blasted away that wild sand. Both sides' top experts taking action. The scene was rather shocking. Just the horrifying aura made people very uncomfortable. Yi Mo, although I really don't want to fight with you, after all, even if I win against you, I'll also suffer considerable losses. It's very easy for others to profit from the fight. But today, I have no choice but to take action. Since you already obtained the Flower of Laws, why be so greedy? Leave the god fruit to me. The Wild Sand King said with a cold laugh. Ferocious killing intent surfaced in Yemo's eyes, and he said coldly, Wild Sand King, do you know that I've already waited for this day for a very long time? 10 years, you made my son, Yi Qiu, suffer painful torment for 10 years. This enmity can only be repaid with your life. Only then can I vent the hatred in my heart. If you want to take revenge, you have to have the ability to do so. The Wild Sand King said disdainfully, You probably don't know, but Sorking City is currently surrounded by experts from the land of exile. It's probably in imminent danger. Your daughter, your wife, they will all die in this chaos. The wild sand behind the Wild Sand King condensed into a huge sand snake. It stuck out its tongue and stared at Yi Mo with killing intent. Yi Mo wanted to kill the Wild Sand King. But how could the Wild Sand King not want to kill Yi Mo? These two people were already like fire and water since 10 years ago. Today, they were just settling the matter from 10 years ago. He thought that Yi Mo would be shocked after hearing his words. But the Wild Sand King was disappointed. Yi Mo's expression did not change at all. Wild Sand King were both old. This era is destined to belong to the young. You probably didn't expect that Sword King City has already set up a terrifying array under Sir Ling's control. Those people will only be sending themselves to death if they go. Chapter 5184. What? The Wild Sand King's expression changed. He didn't care about other cultivators, but his foster son, Yihan, was his hope. If he died in this battle, it wouldn't be worth it. You're lying. How can he set up a decent formation in 3 days? He didn't believe Yi Mo's words. It's up to you to believe it or not. Maybe other people can't do it, but young Masterling can. Young Master, I'll kill the Wild Sand King. I'll leave the rest to you. Yi Mo didn't waste any more words. He stabbed out with his sword and released his sword god martial spirit. The terrifying sword chi and the sand snake started to fight in the air. Boom! At some point, the two of them collided and were sent flying. After stabilizing his body, the Wild Sand King's expression turned ugly. How is this possible? You're obviously weaker than me. How did you become so strong? You can actually fight me to a draw? Wild Sand King, I've said it before. Your time is over. Young Masters St. Rune art can make up for the gap between us. It can even make me stronger than you. Yi Mo wasn't confident before. After all, he hadn't fought in a real battle. He couldn't be sure that Ling Zhao's St. Rune art was useful. However, the collision this time had clearly filled him with confidence. This time, the Wild Sand King had suffered a loss. His sword Qi was obviously sharper and hurt his opponent. There's no need to worry about Senior Sword King. Let's hurry up and get the god fruit. Ling Zhao also heaved a sigh of relief. Yi Mo said he was weaker than the Wild Sand King, but he didn't know how much of a difference there was. Ling Zhao could only analyze it himself. It was hard to guarantee that a first-grade St. Rune could make up for the difference. However, it seemed that it wasn't bad. Sword King Yi Mo was able to fight evenly with his opponent just by using the barbaric Bull St. Rune. This meant that the difference between the two wasn't that big. The barbaric Bull St. Rune wasn't the only barbaric Bull St. Rune he drew on Yi Mo. Other than that, there was the Light Body St. Rune, the Golden Light St. Rune, and even the Frenzy St. Rune. These were all first-grade St. Runes, but they could be used together to increase a cultivator's overall strength. The effect was quite good. While Wild Sand King and Yi Mo were fighting, the Divine Soul Realm experts led by Wild Sand King were also fighting against the Divine Soul Realm experts of Sword King City. Due to the fact that not all of the people on the other side had arrived, the strength of both sides could still be considered to be evenly matched. I'll guard the entrance, Yi Qiu suddenly said. As long as the enemy's reinforcements can arrive, young master will have a chance to obtain the deity fruit. The road was very narrow, so as long as there was one expert guarding it, it was basically one man guarding the pass, and 10,000 wouldn't be able to pass through. Ling Zhao nodded and threw out 2 array refining stones at the same time. One of them activated the lesser Myriad Thunderbolt's Immortal Punishment array. The other activated the Pestilence Bone dissolving formation. He could assist Yi Qiu in battle. At this moment, Huang Shui was the only one left on the opposing side. The rest had all thrown themselves into the battle. On Ling Zhao's side, Ling Xiao, Yu Fenghua, and Cold Plum had yet to join the battle. Of course, although they had more people on their side, their combat power was far inferior. Huang Shui was a half-step Divine Soul Realm expert, which was also the cultivation of the Divine Physique 10th level. On Ling Zhao's side, Cold Plum and Yu Fenghua were only at the early stage of the 9th level Divine Physique echelon. Although they were stronger than ordinary people, they could at most fight against ordinary martial artists at the peak of the 9th level Divine Physique echelon. Against Huang Shui, they had no chance of winning, even if they teamed up. Ling Xiao was on par with the two of them now. However, they had 3 great weapons. The first was the copper mirror that they had just obtained. It could even kill an expert like the Wild Sand King in one hit. Not to mention Huang Shui. The second was Blackie. After a period of growth, Blackie's strength had already reached the middle stage of the 1st level Divine Physique echelon. However, Blackie was still in his infancy and was still too young. The real battle time was very short, so it had to be used at the right time. The third was Little Gold. If Little Gold could come out of seclusion in time, then leaving Huang Shui to him wouldn't be a problem. However, whether Little Gold could come out of seclusion in time was a problem. Ling Xiao didn't know about this. The 3 great weapons all had some problems. Therefore, Ling Xiao didn't want to use them for the time being. Xiao, Cold Plum, and I will stop that woman. You go and get the god's fruit. Although we are no match for her, stopping her shouldn't be a problem. Yu Fenghua suggested, be careful. Ling Xiao had inscribed the Golden Light Saint inscriptions on Yu Fenghua and Cold Plum. Therefore, Even if Huang Shui was stronger than them, it wouldn't be easy for her to hurt them. Therefore, he could go and get the god's fruit without any worries. The god's fruit, this time, was different from the flower of law. The flower of law was protected by a special array and saint inscriptions. However, the god's fruit seemed to be wild. The soul armor sect didn't protect it at all. However, the troublesome thing was that there was a huge flaming lion lying under the god's fruit. Logically speaking, the god's fruit had no effect on demonic beasts. The only reason the flaming lion was attracted to the god's tree was because of the sacred aura released by the god's tree. This made it easier for the flaming lion to cultivate. The flaming lion was extremely strong. It had reached a level that made the Wild Sand King's expression change. Therefore, neither the Wild Sand King nor the Sword King could get the god's fruit alone. Even if they brought their subordinates, it would be difficult for them to escape death. Ha ha ha, Ling Xiao, go and get the god's fruit. You don't have the guts, right? Huang Shui, who was originally anxious, couldn't help but laugh when she saw the flaming lion. She was extremely strong. Even when facing Cold Plum and Yu Fenghua at the same time, she could still easily divert her attention to talk. She was indeed powerful. Huang Shui, use the thing I gave you on Ling Xiao. The Wild Sand King suddenly roared. When Huang Shui heard this, she suddenly realized something. Before they came, the Wild Sand King said that he had a way to kill everyone in Sword King City. As for what the method was, the Wild Sand King didn't say. Instead, he gave her a bottle of red liquid. Huang Shui didn't think too much about it. Her figure moved, avoiding Cold Plum and Yu Fenghua. The liquid in the bottle splashed on Ling Xiao's body. Blood? When the liquid splashed, the nearby people all smelled it. Ha 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 ha. That's the blood of a young flaming lion. When we came here previously, although we didn't get the god's fruit, we killed the young flaming lion. That flaming lion chased after us and caused our black sandstorm to suffer disastrous losses. Ling Xiao, just wait to be torn to shreds by that furious beast. The Wild Sand King laughed loudly. Although he couldn't escape, he had no choice but to use his last resort. However, he was still very happy, just like what Huang Shui said. If this Ling Xiao didn't die, he probably wouldn't be able to sleep in peace. Therefore, he had to kill Ling Xiao at all costs. Only then would he be able to feel at ease. Roar! A deep roar could be heard. That flaming lion suddenly opened its eyes. As expected, the smell of blood had affected it. Chapter 50-185. The huge flaming lion lying under the divine fruit tree opened its furious eyes. Its eyes were filled with intense hatred and fury. Its gaze was aimed at Ling Xiao. The Wild Sand King's plan was truly vicious. He actually sprinkled the blood of the young flaming lion on Ling Xiao. Even Ling Xiao wasn't able to guard against something like this. Roar! Without waiting for Ling Xiao to think, the terrifying flaming lion turned into a fiery light and pounced toward Ling Xiao like a red lightning bolt. The violent aura caused even the Wild Sand King and Sword King Yi Mo to tremble. Hee hee, let's see if you can still survive this time. The Wild Sand King revealed a sinister sneer. Huang Shui also laughed out loud. Finally, Ling Xiao was forced into a dead end. When Sword King Yi Mo saw the situation, he tried to save Ling Xiao. However, he was stopped by the Wild Sand King. Yi Mo, don't even think about interfering today. Didn't you think that the kid is very capable? Then let's just watch him die. The Wild Sand King laughed wildly as he attacked. He didn't give Yi Mo the chance to save Ling Xiao. The situation was extremely serious. A slight delay had already wasted the best chance to save Ling Xiao. Yi Mo said furiously, Wild Sand King, you're really shameless. You actually used such a despicable trick to deal with a brat at the peak of the 6th level divine physique echelon. What a joke. Xiao! Yu Fanghua screamed and rushed toward Ling Xiao. Although she wasn't a match for the flaming lion, Blackie was still able to block it for a while. Where are you going? Huang Xue's cold voice rang out. She approached Yu Fanghua from behind. Yu Fanghua's eyes flashed with coldness. A black light shot out from her body. It turned into a terrifying, black-winged, demonic dragon. Although it was a cub, it had the strength of the divine soul realm. Huang Xue had no time to defend herself. She was sent flying by the black-winged infant dragon's claw. It was unknown whether she was dead or alive. If she wasn't in a hurry to save Ling Xiao, Yu Fanghua would definitely kill Huang Xue. At this time, Cold Plum had already set up a large number of obstacles in front of Ling Xiao. Countless plants formed a dense barrier. No matter how powerful the flaming lion was, its first attack was still tenaciously blocked. This gave Blackie a chance to fight. Xiao Hei's battle time could now be extended to about 5 minutes. However, the difference in strength between Little Black and the flaming lion was too great. It probably wouldn't be able to hold on for long. Roar! The flaming lion, which was entangled by countless vines and roots, was covered in raging flames. The fire burned. Cold Plum's expression suddenly changed. She could not hold on any longer. Cold Plum, assist Xiao Hei. Xiao, go get the deity fruit. At this time, the flaming lion was lured out. It was time to take the god fruit. No, I have the blood of a cub in my body. To that fellow, I am the primary target. Cold Plum, go get the fruit. I will stop this big fellow. Although Ling Xiao was not a match for the flaming lion, he had unfathomable abilities. Dealing with it for a while was no problem. Moreover, he had Yu Fanghua and Blackie to help him. Cold Plum was stunned for a moment. Then, she gritted her teeth and headed for the god fruit. In the sky, the wild Sand King was dumbfounded. This sudden change caused him to be a little dazed. No matter what, Huang Xue was a half-step divine soul realm expert. She was actually sent flying by that little black thing's claw. What was going on? Truly trash. However, the situation is still the same. If she can't defeat the flaming lion, that Ling Xiao will definitely die. In the end, the wild Sand King could only conclude that Huang Xue was too trash. Boom! Once again, the flaming lion pounced towards Ling Xiao. Its speed was astonishingly fast. Dragon God Ice Array Diagram. Child God's Blood Array Diagram. After gradually adapting to the environment of the eternal divine realm, Ling Xiao could now release 2 types of array diagrams at a time. Although it was only a little, the Dragon God's Ice Array Diagram could still reduce the flaming lion's speed. The Child God's Blood Array Diagram could also increase Ling Xiao's chances of dodging. At the same time, it could weaken the flaming lion. It could also increase Ling Xiao's battle prowess. However, none of this could stop that terrifying fellow. It seemed to be futile. Bloodthirsty Shield. Dragon God's Ice Shield. In the blink of an eye, a giant blood-red shield appeared in front of Ling Xiao. This was a defense formed by the Bloodthirsty Plague. As long as one could master the ability of the Bloodthirsty Plague, they could control it to defend or attack. Behind the blood-red shield was a giant ice shield formed by a divine dragon. It was incomparably thick. Even so, Ling Xiao did not have much confidence in blocking it. Thus, he activated the Golden Saint Rune. This first-grade Saint Rune could block multiple attacks from an early-stage, first-tier, godly spirit realm expert. However, the flaming lion was too strong. Whether or not it could block it was another matter. Thus he did a series of things. Moon God's Blessings. Yu Fanghua was not idle either. The flaming lion had no intention of attacking her, so she used her divine essence to protect Ling Xiao. Outside the golden protective wall, there was a layer of moonlight. Blackie hid there, preparing to deal a fatal blow to the flaming lion. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the first layer of defense was destroyed. The bloodthirsty shield formed by the bloodthirsty plague shattered, but a large number of the bloodthirsty plague stuck to the flaming lion's body. Although the flaming lion's flames were terrifying, they were only deviant flames. The bloodthirsty plague had been tempered by Ling Zhao's immortal fire, so of course it was not afraid. Crack! After the bloodthirsty shield was destroyed, the dragon god's ice array diagram shattered as well. However, the intense chill weakened the flaming lion's speed and strength. Boom! Then the moon god's blessings was destroyed. Yu Fenghua's mouth leaked a trace of blood. She was obviously shaken by the force. At this moment, Ling Zhao's only defense was the Golden Saint rune, but it was also the strongest layer of defense. Roar! The flaming lion roared and slammed into the golden barrier. For the first time, it did not break instantly. It seemed that the golden barrier's defense was very strong, and the flaming lion had been weakened by a lot. That was why this scene happened. However, this collision exhausted all of Ling Zhao's divine essence. He had no choice but to use his potential to replenish it. It was also because of this collision that Ling Zhao's cultivation, which had been stagnant for a long time, broke through. 7th stage divine physique echelon. He broke through just like that. Even Ling Zhao did not expect this. However, although he broke through, he was still powerless in front of this terrifying opponent. Crack! Cracks appeared on the golden protective wall, and Ling Zhao's expression changed abruptly. Black death snake, cursed poison. Ling Zhao could actually use the bronze mirror, but he did not. He planned to use it when he absolutely had to, and now he was clearly not at the end of his rope. Previously, his 9-headed demon king snake, Martial Soul, had absorbed the black death snake, cursed poison, from Yiqiu. Now Ling Zhao released it. A black, venomous snake bit the flaming lion. Chapter 5186. Even though the flaming lion was incomparably powerful, poison was still very effective against experts, especially cursed poison. It was something that could not be expelled using divine energy. Otherwise, the Sword King would have been able to save his son back then. Roar! The flaming lion let out a mournful roar. At this moment, Xiao He saw the opportunity and used all of its strength to launch an attack. Boom! This attack sent the flaming lion flying. It smashed through several stone pillars. However, because Little Black had used all its strength, it had no choice but to fall into a deep sleep and return to Yu Fenghua's body. Right now, Little Black was already Yu Fenghua's contracted beast. This little fellow had only been out for a short period of time, but it had contributed greatly. Not only did it beat Huang Shui to the point where it was unknown whether she was dead or alive, it had also forced the flaming lion to retreat. It could be said that it had contributed greatly. Even so, Ling Zhao's brows were still furrowed. That flaming lion was too powerful. It was not something that Little Black could deal with in an instant. Thus, right now, they could only take the opportunity to retrieve the god's fruit while it was injured. Domain name, please remember _3. Fortunately, the Wild Sand King could not spare any manpower to deal with them. Thus, the current situation was extremely advantageous to them. Damn it! What is that swarthy little thing? It can actually force the flaming lion to retreat? The Wild Sand King was dumbfounded once again. He had originally thought that he only needed to watch the show. With Ling Zhao's strength, it was not even enough to fill the gaps between the flaming lion's teeth. However, he could not understand the current situation. Hee, as expected of young Masterling. Yi Mo heaved a sigh of relief. He looked at the Wild Sand King and said, "You didn't expect this, did you, old thief? You're so despicable as to use such despicable methods." However, young Master was still able to deal with the problem perfectly. "It's been 10 years, and this is the first time I've seen you having such a headache. How satisfying. Don't be happy too early. That flaming lion is not dead yet," the Wild Sand King said with a gloomy face. Right now, he could only hope that the flaming lion would be able to stop Ling Xiao and the others. This situation was truly ironic. While they were talking, Cold Plum had already safely obtained the god's fruit. As a martial artist who could control plants, this was not a problem for Cold Plum. However, Ling Xiao was a little greedy. He actually uprooted the god fruit tree and planted it in his mountain river world. He would definitely need it in the future. Although this god's fruit only matured once every 100 years, the lifespan of a martial artist was also very long. He was not afraid, he just had to wait slowly. Moreover, this thing could mature in a year in the mountain river world, because 1 year there was equivalent to 100 years in the outside world. After obtaining the god fruit, Ling Zhai's mission in the ruins of the Soul Armor sect could be considered to have been completed. He played with the array refining stone in his hand. He wondered if he should use the teleportation array to leave, but in the end he let it go. There was a strange feeling lingering in his heart. It was as if something was calling out to him. In the depths of the ruins of the Soul Armor sect, even the god's fruit did not make him feel this way. This meant that there was an even more miraculous treasure in the depths of the Soul Armor sect. Roar! Suddenly, the flaming lion that had been sent flying returned. It let out an angry roar and stepped back into the battlefield. The Wild Sand King's eyes, which were filled with despair, became fanatical again. This was good. As long as the flaming lion was still alive, they still had a chance to obtain the treasure. However, the Wild Sand King seemed to be happy too early. In the next moment, another unforeseen event occurred. The flaming lion did not look at Ling Xiao. Instead, it looked in the direction of the shattered passage. It seemed as if there was something there that made it afraid. Soon, everyone got their answer. A person walked out from the shattered passageway. To be exact, it was a martial soul warrior. Martial soul warriors did not have a physical body, but their soul armor created a body for them. The eyes of this martial soul warrior emitted a faint blue light. The appearance of the soul armor made him look incomparably mysterious. He was like a ghost wrapped in a cloak. He held a crossbow in one hand. It was the kind that was small and exquisite. It probably could not be used for long-distance combat. However, it was very lethal at close range. Moreover, it was also very flexible. In his other hand, he held a short sword. It was only about 1 foot long, but it was incomparably sharp. Roar! The flaming lion's body erupted with a dazzling light. The flames kept rolling. It seemed like it was going to fight with all its strength. Clearly, this martial soul warrior was a great threat to it. It had no choice but to be cautious. Boom! It suddenly opened its mouth and spat out a beam of flame. It was like a scarlet laser that shot toward the martial soul warrior. It had not used this move to deal with Ling Xiao. The flaming lion probably felt that it was unnecessary. After all, Ling Xiao was too weak. Facing the terrifying beam of flame, the faint blue light in the eyes of the martial soul warrior became even brighter. 33 people started. The crossbow in his left hand suddenly shot out a beam of cold light. It did not look like a real arrow. Instead, it was an arrow condensed from divine essence. When the arrow light hit the fire, it easily tore the fire apart, even though it did not have much power by the time it reached the flame lion. Although it was not as powerful as the martial soul warrior, it still scared the flaming lion. It realized that it was going to be unlucky today. It actually encountered such a powerful existence. However, it also knew that it could not escape. For some reason, this guy kept chasing it. Whoosh! It moved. The martial soul warrior appeared in front of the flaming lion at a speed that was hard to see with the naked eye. The sharp dagger suddenly pierced toward the flaming lion's body. It was truly fast and ruthless to the extreme. The flaming lion sensed the danger. A ball of flame erupted from its body and spread out in all directions with it as the center. Wherever the flame passed, the ground was scorched and cracked. 33, people started. This terrifying power was definitely enough to kill any divine physique echelon martial artist. Even divine soul realm martial artists would not be able to escape death if they were weaker. However, the martial soul warrior did not suffer any damage from such a powerful attack. Many people did not understand what was going on. However, Ling Xiao saw it clearly. His Tai Chi eye had captured the change in that instant. The martial soul warrior's figure actually disappeared at that moment. Although it was only for a moment, he had indeed dodged the flame attack. After all, the flaming lion was not weak. The martial soul warrior probably did not want to use his body to take it head-on. The moment the martial soul warrior's figure reappeared, the cold light in his hand had already pierced toward the flaming lion's head. The short sword contained an extremely strong wave of divine essence. Whoosh! The cold light swept past the flaming lion's huge body. An ear-piercing sound was heard. In the next moment, the flaming lion howled in pain. People were shocked to find that a bloody hole had been pierced through the flaming lion's head. Chapter 50-187. The moment it was injured, the flaming lion went crazy. His attacks were completely aimless. It didn't want the martial soul warrior to get close to it. Facing this final madness, the martial soul warrior dodged calmly, looking for an opportunity to end the other party. A red and a black figure fought there, and the ruins in the ruins began to collapse again. When the Wild Sand King saw this scene, his face became very gloomy, so much so that he suffered many losses in the battle with Emo. There were already several obvious injuries on his body, but the Wild Sand King ignored it. Ling Xiao escaped death again, which made him very depressed. That flaming lion was obviously not a match for the martial soul warrior, and he believed that it would be killed soon. How could Ling Xiao's luck be so good? If not for the martial soul warrior, Ling Xiao would definitely be dead. That was what he thought, but unfortunately it was not right. Ling Xiao's luck was good, but even without the martial soul warrior, Ling Xiao would not have died. At most, he would just use the bronze mirror. He could still kill the flaming lion. Now it was just a little easier. That martial soul warrior is very dangerous. Everyone listen to my orders. Gather around me and prepare to teleport out. Ling Xiao did not know why the martial soul warrior attacked the flaming lion, but it was definitely not his doing. So when the martial soul warrior killed the flaming lion, no one knew what he would do. He could not stay in this place anymore. He had to find a place. Fortunately, the mark at the fork was still there. There were actually 3 ways to go in that fork. One led to the flower of law, and the other led to the god's fruit. There was also a hole in the ground. He did not know how deep it was, but there were vines in the hole, so there was no problem going down. Ling Xiao planned to go down and take a look. After all, he still trusted his intuition. Since something was calling him, he had to go and take a look. Yi Mo, Yi Qiao, and the others heard Ling Xiao's words and were about to move towards Ling Xiao's position. However, at this moment, an earth-shattering roar sounded. The entire ground began to collapse. Aside from Yi Mo and the Wild Sand King, who were fighting in the sky, everyone else fell from the sky before they could react. By the time he wanted to rise into the air again, it was already too late. There seemed to be a very terrifying array formation below that prevented the martial artists from using their movement techniques. When Ling Xiao steadied himself, he looked around, but there was no one he was familiar with. Whether it was an enemy or an ally, there was none. It seems to have collapsed. Let's meet up with the others first. Ling Xiao was very self-aware. In this place, his chances of survival were very low. If they couldn't regroup with the main force in time, it would definitely not work. However, after he had walked a dozen steps, he suddenly saw a person, an excited face. It was Qi Fei. Qi Fei also fell down. He was also alone and wanted to find a team. However, he did not expect that God would send Ling Xiao to him. Haha, I'm really lucky. If I were to meet any of you, I'm afraid I'd be in trouble. But I just had to meet you. This time, let's see who can save you. Chi Fei revealed a sinister smile. Just now, he was blocked outside and did not see what happened at all. That was probably why he was so confident. If he knew that Ling Xiao had survived the battle with the flaming lion, he probably would not be so proud and relaxed now. Ling Xiao looked at Chi Fei indifferently. Chi Fei was glad. He was even more glad. If it were anyone from the Wild Sand King's side, he would have a headache. However, he was not afraid of Chi Fei. Even before his breakthrough, he could use the Human God Reversal or the Nine Dragons' divine art to kill Chi Fei. It was just that it would be very difficult. But now he was already at the 7th level of the divine physique echelon. Killing Chi Fei would become much easier. He would not even need to use that martial skill that consumed a lot of energy. One move. Ling Xiao said sarcastically, I really don't understand. How shameless is a person who is defeated by me in one move? Why do you always pretend that you're stronger than me? Chi Fei's expression froze. Then he roared furiously, Little bastard, how dare you mention that day? If I don't torture you to death today, my name is not Chi Fei. Haha, do it if you can. But be careful. Don't end up like your brother, Chi Hung, who ended up in a vegetative state because of me. I'm afraid he won't be able to wake up for the rest of his life. Even if he wakes up, he'll be a lunatic. Ling Xiao did not have anything else, but his ability to make people angry was not bad. You're courting death. Chi Fei knew that it was useless to say anything more. Besides, he would only be humiliated by Ling Xiao. In terms of verbal skills, he was far inferior to Ling Xiao. With a loud bang, the divine dog martial soul appeared behind him. Chi Fei's divine dog martial soul was a green poisonous dog. Its entire body was green, as if there were drops of terrifying venom dripping from it. An ordinary poisonous dog martial soul was not powerful enough and might not be able to hurt Ling Xiao. However, the poisonous dog martial soul of the divine dog martial soul was different. If he wanted to injure Ling Xiao, it was definitely possible. It all depended on how Ling Xiao was going to perform. Divine dog possession. Unlike last time, Chi Fei was not going to be careless against Ling Xiao this time. He chose to use the divine dog possession right from the start, increasing his combat strength to about 80%. The remaining 20% was to prepare for an escape. After killing Ling Xiao, he could not stay here any longer. He would have to sneak out eventually. Chi Fei was covered in green armor, with drops of venom dripping and corroding the ground. Ling Xiao had to be cautious against Chi Fei, who was like a god of poison. Chi Fei's cultivation was much higher than his. Moreover, this person was more powerful than his brother, Chi Hung. Although Ling Xiao hated this guy, he had to admit that he was strong. At the very least, he was very strong among his peers. It would not be easy for Ling Xiao to kill him now. However, it would only be interesting if Chi Fei was strong enough. His previous opponents were too strong and did not give him a chance to show his skills. Only this Chi Fei was stronger than him, but not so strong that he could not do anything. It was perfect for him to temper his cultivation and increase the energy in his cultivation sea, to hone his martial skills. Sun God's Blood Formation. Bloody Rat Level 2. Facing Chi Fei, Ling Xiao entered Beast God's body and activated the 2nd level of Bloodsucker. However, he did not use the Divine Dog Martial Soul or the Divine Dog Possession. He wanted to see if he could defeat Chi Fei with his current strength. The Void God sword was already in his hand, and the heaven, shrouding blood, glowed faintly. The Divine Sword Martial Soul stood behind him indifferently. This Divine Sword Martial Soul was taken from someone else because it had fused with a mid-level Divine Rank God Martial Soul. It was much stronger than an ordinary elementary God Martial Soul. The Divine Sword Martial Soul was dressed in white, and its long hair danced in the wind. It was cold and sharp. The Divine Sword Martial Soul brought about a huge improvement in sword intent and sword momentum. You're tuning in to the Thunder Spear YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.